Welcome back to the MODUS Super Series. We do apologise that we had to take a break in play, therefore circumstances out of our control, but we promise you we are ready to get cracking once again, and we are in the midst of our fifth game of the day here in Group A in Champions Week. As it stands, Raymond Smith is in a very, very good position.
140.
What we've decided to do as well is to restart this leg.
Well,
John Henderson's restarted his leg. He starts pretty well. Put Raymond Smith in a 3-1 position.
60.
You do fancy he's going to win this game from this position, Matthew Edgar?
Well, if we're looking at the pattern of play as well, Raymond Smith throw against the darts, and the player who throws second traditionally wins their matches today.
41. 81.
So that shot puts John Henderson onto 211, Raymond Smith on 260. So a treble here for Raymond Smith will move him onto a finish.
100.
And that finish is 160. 211 for Hendo, so 171 would leave himself on tops.
171. Raymond, you require 160.
So 160 for Raymond Smith, where Hendo sat on tops. Won't be able to go. So John Henderson will return for tops to keep his
60.
hopes alive. To
John, you
to
require
3-2.
40.
It's a wire bender.
Game
And that one's
shot
in,
the
so
fifth
it's
leg.
3 legs to
John
2 now to
Henderson.
Raymond Smith. And the Highlander has responded pretty well.
Sixth
So
leg, it's
short
Raymond to
break
throw
before we
first.
start this
Game
leg.
on.
And now Raymond Smith now has the chance to serve this one out. This will be his best opportunity of winning this match. To start his campaign, he did lose in his first game today
91.
by 4 legs to 3. He will be hoping that that does not happen again. Apologies for the lack of graphic here. We will keep you up to date with the scores.
100.
Ton for Hendo to start, leaves him on 401. Raymond Smith starting with 91 and 410.
Reminder of the leg score as well for you. Raymond Smith, 3 legs to 2 up here on John Henderson.
140.
See, this is why you go the switch on the 17s to start the leg, isn't it? Because you get a 140 there to leave 270. Now you can stay straight for the finish.
137.
Henderson, 264 after that 2 treble visit. Smith, 270, looking for the ton or more to leave the finish for the match.
100.
Finds the minimum requirement. That leaves him on the biggest outshot possible, the 170.
We didn't get one last week. We had 3 167 checkouts last week.
41. Raymond, you require
43 for Hendo leaves
170.
223, which means that Raymond has got 6 starts from 170 right now. Is he going to stay on the 20s there? That's a masterful
98.
shot with the second dart. 72 left for him for the match. Hendo on 223. That's about to come drastically down.
125.
Won't like that last dart to
Raymond,
leave
you require
98.
72.
Great dart. Leaves him double 12 for the match. Double 6.
60.
Hendo comes back for 98
John,
to
you
keep this match
require
alive.
98.
He's 3-2 down. Treble 20 the target. Gets it. Double 19.
60.
And he doesn't find it, so Raymond Smith comes back for
Raymond,
double
you
6
require 12.
to get the job done.
Game,
Wonderfully
shot, and the match.
Really well done by the
Raymond
Guru
Smith.
in what was an interrupted match, which we do apologise for, but no apologies from Raymond Smith, who gets himself 2 points in the table, and there's only one player who cannot get to 4 points via their next round match. And that's Jim McEwen, because he's still looking for 2 points. He might just get them in the 6th match of the day against Osborne next.
Welcome back to the MODUS Super Series. First of all, we'd like to apologise for the slight stoppage in play that we encountered in our previous game between Raymond Smith and John Henderson. Smith running out a 4-2 victor in the end in that particular match. Both players conducting themselves impeccably amongst that, as well as our match referee, Charlie Corsveen. So we're going to round off our second round of fixtures now. It sees Colin Osborne in action. He takes on Jim McEwen. And in the commentary box, here's Paul and Matt.
Thanks, H. Told you it was going to stick. Well, one thing that is definitely sticking today, and something that got lost within that interrupted match in match 5, is that we still have this pattern of people winning against the darts. So here's a good thing for you, Jim, who has decided to change his flights for this one, maybe a change of fortunes as well. The wizard Colin Osborne having the darts in this match is not a good sign if you are a believer in trends. But like I've said in many times in the past, just because a roulette wheel has 10 black numbers in a row doesn't mean the next one will be. But Chucky has got to start chucking those big 180 clusters in to give himself plenty of chances. He's not only looking for his first win, he's looking for his first leg of the day.
First leg, it's Colin to throw first. Game on.
Over to you then, Matt. What do you think about this one? Because Chucky is in a little bit of bother, but maybe the one thing that will make him feel a little bit better about his position at this early stage
45.
is that everybody's got 2 points. Nobody has shot forward to 4 yet.
I don't think Jim McEwen's in bother at all. I think the problem is he thinks he's in bother.
180.
I said that we wouldn't get much in the way of equipment changing today, but what I've seen is quite significant here from
60.
McEwen. It's not just the colour, but I'm just going to double check when this first dart hits the board. Is that a foldable flight that he's using or a moulded one? Because in all of the time that Jim McEwen's been playing
55.
with us here at the MODUS Super Series, he's been using a certain moulded flight, and usually a black one as well. So this is a big equipment change for him.
Change is something that Colin
180.
Osborne knew a little bit about. You can see on the back of his shirt, the wizard. It was originally the wizard, but then when Simon Whitlock came over and wanted to be the wizard as well, he sort of just gave him it, didn't he? He sort of changed 2011 and went, okay, I'm now going to be Aussie.
I call him Aussie, or Col, but as far as a darting nickname is concerned, they had a match at the World Championship, didn't they?
170.
Where they played against each other, and there was this really strange picture of them both in wizard outfits. It was a bit naff. I was just about to say that a 170 is not naff.
105. Colin, you require
But he has
160.
almost retaken his nickname back. And I like that. Because he wants to be the wizard. And he wants to be 1-0 up.
96.
Not yet.
Jim, you require 65.
For the first leg of the day for Jim McEwen. Going to be 1 dart at tops. He's had 6 darts at doubles in his opening game. He wasn't able to convert one against John Henderson.
25.
The longer
Colin,
he goes without a leg,
20.
the harder they will be to find. Double 10.
Game shot
There
on
you
the
have it.
first leg.
Third dart
Colin
just makes you
Osborne.
feel a little bit worse as the opponent, who has now lost 5 straight
Second
legs
leg, it's
today.
Jim to throw first. Game on.
Got to get on the board in leg 2 here to worry Aussie's position.
It's a weird little section. That's a weird paragraph when you think about it.
60.
The Colin Osborne and Simon Whitlock scenario, because there is just so many references to those words between the two of them, isn't there? Like Oz and Aussie, and that's kind of an
85.
abbreviation for Australia as well, which is where Simon Whitlock's from. They both had that wizard nick. There's just so many, like, where it just links. Strange how sometimes the world aligns itself.
100.
Speaking of Australia, we do indeed know that Gigi Mathers is tuning in on what is a very hot and rainy Queensland day. We hope you're well, Gigi. Glad to
140.
hear that you're tuning in. Gigi actually never played in the MODUS Super Series, but he was part of our backroom staff on occasion, and he did a marvellous, marvellous job, as well as being a PDC pro at the time. We really, really do miss him.
140.
Reminds me, actually, when you said that hot and rainy day, it reminds me of something I used to do on FIFA. So when you could set conditions on FIFA, I always used to set it up for a sunny night.
60.
And I know why, because you like slide tackles. You wanted to see somebody sliding halfway across the pitch. If only there were slide tackles in darts here. You'd have to give the referees yellow cards.
I'm kind of glad there's not slide tackles, because I would hate to have known what Niall Cullerton would have done to John Henderson when he took that 112 out
65.
on Saturday night.
That is a very good point, because that 112th checkout that Hendo took out was a bit of a worldie.
81.
The missed double 16
Jimmy
on the
require
152 for Cullen
136.
will have felt like a missed penalty. Great first start. He needs another. Double 8.
120.
So many near misses
Colin,
for
you
legs.
require
But if he loses this
135.
leg, he might want to slide tackle Aussie.
Treble for double. Double 14.
Game shot on the second
my!
leg.
Colin Osborne takes out a 135 after Jim McEwen misses the 136, gives it the hand signals to say,
Third leg, it's
why
Colin
can't
to
I
throw
hit a
first.
double?
Game
It shouldn't
on.
matter. I'm going to be back anyway. No, you are not. Once again, I am delighted that darts is a no-contact sport.
Yeah, that was a two-footed challenge that from
97.
Osborne. That was so good.
And when you don't feel good about your game, that happens to you more often than not. Or at least it feels that way.
100.
Can you remember a finish in your career where somebody did that to you?
I think you did it to me, actually.
Oh, did I?
We played over in Germany. I just beat Stuart Kellett, I think
100.
6-1 in the first game. I believe he wasn't in great form at that time. And I thought, oh, this could be an opportunity. And he had like 109 average or something stupid.
That doesn't. I think you've made a mistaken me for somebody else. That doesn't sound like me.
Hildesheim,
140.
I think it might have been.
All right, it's starting to get warmer. Did some good stuff in Hildesheim. That was in the Euro Tour, wasn't it? Yeah, that was a good game. Probably the best game we ever had.
I preferred
83.
one in Wigan that we had.
The one that you won in the last 16 of the UK Open qualifier. I remember that one. Jim has got to get on this 60, and you sense he might need more than one visit just to get that first leg of the day. That'll help.
180.
But then again, he might just get one look at 81, the way that Osborne's picking his pocket.
Jim McEwen is a man
140.
who is portraying
Jim,
a
you
man
require
completely void
81.
of confidence, despite throwing 105, and he was 86 in his opening game. What more do you want, Jim?
Double 13. Unlucky for some.
55.
I probably shouldn't have said that, actually.
Colin, you
Because
require
now Osborne's going to
81.
take this out and make Jim feel about as sick as the bowl of sick that I talked about last week. Bullseye. Drum roll, please. Oh, he's
Game
done
shot
it
on the
again!
third leg.
Oh,
Colin
boy!
Osborne.
Jim McEwen can't breathe today because he's been suffocated by the brilliance of Osborne and John
Fourth
Henderson.
leg, it's Jim to throw first. Game on.
Get ready for what's going to be a roller coaster Champions Week. And this is only game 6 of 104.
96.
Note to self, Matt. We're going to have to get some throat pastels for the rest of the week. Because if these guys are going to deliver haymakers like this,
It's
gonna be some week.
Jim McEwen, for the day, is averaging 93.87, and he is yet to win a leg.
a lot of that is to do with the brilliance of his
96.
opponents, but he has had chances. In this game, he's had 3 darts at a double. In his previous game against John Henderson in game 3, he did get 6 darts at a double. So it's not as if he's been shut out completely. You can't negate the fact that Osborne has been about as sharp as a 19th century scythe taking out the grass and the hay.
94.
Maybe Jim McEwen didn't get the memo. The memo, remember, on game 1 when I said, you'll get an opportunity in this group. You'll get 1. Do not expect a repeat visit to the board this week.
96.
You'll get a shot, hit it, you win, miss it, you're going to lose.
Well, we've got to say it. The game is pretty much over because Osborne's going to hit that 170 the way he's finishing. I know he's only 50%, but the last couple of legs, taking out 81 and 135.
99. Colin, you require 170.
This will feel like a gimme. Maybe I was getting a little bit ahead of myself, but Colin isn't.
96. Jim, you require 116.
It's a combination shot that normally breaks the habit of missing doubles. One of these shots where you think it might just be slightly out of reach. It is now out of reach for Jim McEwen and Colin Osborne, who's hit the bullseye, who's hit a 135 finish.
56.
74 points
Colin,
away
you require 74.
from being the first player to reach 4 points.
Is he the early favourite?
Game,
He might as well be,
and the match.
because his leg
Colin
difference
Osborne.
has swollen to +6, and he is the first person to 4 points. Jim McEwen, it's just an unbelievable morning so far. He averaged 98 in that game and only got 3 darts at a double. But look at Osborne, 7 opportunities and 4 hits. But that 135, absolute madness when he took out double 14 with Jim McEwen on a double. Great, great shot. Great, great day so far. Round number 3 is after the break if you want a bigger dose of the darts we've already seen.
Welcome back to Champions Week here at the MODUS Super Series, where Colin Osborne has got the better of Jim McEwen by 4 legs to 2. That was despite McEwen averaging 98 in that game and having 2 maximums. But a 1-3-5 finish for Osborne was the highlight en route to that success against McEwen. And he is the first man to make it onto 4 points in this early league table in Group A. The rest of the players, apart from McEwen, are all locked on 2 points. So already Champions Week proving to be quite the tight tussle at the top end of it. So Osborne against McEwen was game 6. Let's head into game 7. And here's Paul Nicholson and Matthew Edgar.
Thanks, H. And we're over to another H here in Henderson. And he's up against another H in Haynes. Game 7's got a lovely ring to it, especially if you're into things like the National Basketball Association or the NHL. Because when it's game 7, it's the final game, but this is not even the halfway point. That's John Henderson in his Henderson tartan and looking for 4 points after an up and down first couple of rounds. Losing to Raymond Smith 4-2 and taking out Jim McEwen 4-0. But Johnny Haynes, same for him, 1 win, 1 loss. Both games going 4-3.
So we've got H up on the balcony. H throwing the
First
darts.
leg, it's Johnny Haynes
H
to
about
throw
to
first.
start the darts.
Game on.
So we've got Triple H. So I guess it's time to play the game.
That was such a good segue. And the referee is CC.
180.
And a 180 has finally happened to him. If you like 90s music, you got that reference from CC Peniston.
41.
Honestly, it was a little bit too out there for the mainstream. But I do really like the look of this group all of a sudden. I did on paper, but now that we've
100.
seen them throw 2 rounds of darts, anything is possible here.
You got a feel for Jim McEwen, haven't you? Bottom of the table on -8. He's had 2 4-0 defeats.
60.
He's playing good darts. But that's not going to help him because he came here and in his interview saying he was lacking confidence after what happened at the seniors. He's just going to feel that whatever he does isn't good enough at the moment.
100.
Yeah, averaging 92 for those 2 defeats as well. Yeah, averaging 92 and hasn't won a leg. Welcome to Champions Week, Jim.
100. Johnny required 121.
92 is more than both of us predicted was actually the required to win the group.
There is a long way to go, and there will be adrenaline
81.
pumping through the veins of these players on the first day of Champions Week. But they all know that it's the long game.
93. Johnny
wins the
required
day.
40.
You can never count anybody out in this game because you don't get given legs. You have
Game
to
shot
take
on the
them
first
just
leg.
like that.
Johnny
And when
Haynes.
Johnny Haynes is getting 15 darters with his 3rd dart in hand, you know he's scoring well.
Second leg, it's John Henderson to throw first. Game on.
And this is one of those games where the referee has to go full name on the throwing first because
82.
we have 2 Johns up there. I'm just going to reference something that's a bit retro because
100.
this weekend, before Matt and I, who have been rooming together this week, been a real pleasure, by the way, we decided to go to a retro toy store on
96.
Saturday to have a look at a few trinkets. Johnny Haynes is using a piece of equipment that I used to use when I was a kid. These stems with
60.
the black bodies and the red tops. I don't know anybody who uses those anymore. But I remember getting those from a lolly jar at my
100.
local sports shop in Blythe, Northumberland when I was a kid. I didn't even know they still made them. Here's the personification of old school, but
140.
sometimes the old ways are the best. And that is a quote from Man of Steel. And you will see Superman later in the week.
Say the old
81.
ways are the best, and you mentioned we've got 2 Johns. I mean, what a name that was. We had Johns, we had Daves, and they're sort of becoming extinct names now. I was just trying to look at some of the more extinct names. Robert is becoming an
60.
extinct name now in
Johnny
the modern world.
required 142.
Never in Scotland.
So if you're out there with a lot of Robert name tags, get selling them fast.
102. Johnny, you require 141.
Some names have made a comeback, like Archie and Arthur and Mavis.
97.
Double
John,
top
you
for
require
Hendo.
40.
Can't afford to miss. On double 5.
35.
But does give Johnny Haynes a
Johnny,
chance
you
at
require
Motown
44.
for a 2-0 lead here. Double top it is.
Game
Very,
shot the
very
second
good.
leg. Johnny
Gets his chance and
Haynes.
takes his chance. And again, it's with the third dart in hand.
Third leg, it's Johnny
Things can
Haynes to throw
change
first.
in this
Game
format
on.
very, very quickly. Hendo with a fast start, but since then, things have got a bit more sticky.
100.
Really impressed with Johnny Haynes here. Near for 94 in his opening game and 90 in his second. He actually had 4 match darts. He could have also been on 4
100.
points. Missed those match darts and Justin Smith stepping in and taking it. But I remember watching the week he was on, and Glenn Durrant was on commentary, and he said he could be a bit of a spoiler. Glenn Durrant, someone who'll be
100.
joining you later on in the week. And I thought when he said that, I think Johnny Haynes is more than a spoiler.
60.
He's throwing darts at the moment like a champion.
Johnny said that £20,000 is a lot of money earlier this morning. He's right.
60.
For the amateur game, £20,000 is a fortune. It can change how you look at the game and what kind of financial
97.
backing it gives yourself moving forward for your future ambitions.
Wonder how many pair of like those cargo trousers he could buy with that £20,000. You'll very rarely see Johnny Haynes in anything but these sort of army camo-y sort of with
47.
20 pockets on them sort of bottoms.
Versatility, you see. You never know what you might need to carry. You think that's a fashion accessory that maybe
40.
somebody could massage in the game? We could have a pair of darting cargo pants with a darts pocket or a holster.
Some of the products I've seen coming out in recent months,
60.
I would not be surprised.
Yeah, we have seen some dart shoes, which have got straight edges.
100. Johnny, you require 134.
Well, this is for 3-0. And he might get it. 2 double tops. Hendo needs something to
94.
happen
John,
because
you
the last
require
thing he wants
104.
is for his leg difference to plummet even more. Currently stands at +2.
He
might
Johnny,
be
you require
forced to
40.
take 4 straight legs for the win if Johnny can find tops. This
Game
time
shot
it's
on
just the
third
first
leg.
dart planted
Johnny
in there, but the
Haynes.
legs are getting worse as we go throughout the course of this match.
Fourth leg,
That
it's
was a
John
19
Henderson to
darter
throw
following an
first.
18 and
Game
a
on.
15. So if there is any encouragement for John, it probably is that.
And just again, looking back through
41.
last week, game 1 for Hendo, brilliant. Tails off a little bit as it goes on into game 2 and beyond. We'll see if that pattern continues and that trend.
121.
But at the moment, Hendo o'clock has finished. And I wonder if that little delay as well, extra 20 minutes
41.
or so, has just moved us out of Hendo time.
Another thing that Johnny Haynes does is he supports a lot of charities. All you got to do is look at his
100.
left wrist. I think the last person I saw wearing that many bracelets was Floris Griffith Joyner when she was a 100-meter runner back in the 80s.
140.
But Johnny hasn't got her nails. If you don't know, Flojo used to have the longest nails in athletics. They were
100.
like talons.
Well, this will be one of the rare occasions Johnny Haynes comes to the board and doesn't want to
99.
hit a 180.
You actually want to get the single 20 first. Oh, no. Well, there's the single 20. And it made the next start a little bit less fraught. But Hendo now knows that he could have things turned around on him. After winning against McEwen earlier 4-0, he could be defeated by Haynes 4-0 with the best leg of the contest. And it was a 13-darter. Strong stuff from Johnny Haynes. And if you think that he's here just to make up the numbers, think again, because he's vaulted himself to 4 points with Colin Osborne in the table, thanks to that 92.5 average. And again, the checkered percentage is very, very impressive. He was visit perfect pretty much in that match. So things are going to have to change for Hendo. He can't stay on stats like that very long. When we come back, we'll see Justin Smith and Jim McEwen, as McEwen is trying to get his first points of the day.
Welcome back to the MODUS Super Series, where it was another impressive performance from Johnny Haynes, who got the better of John Henderson by 4-0, averaging 92.5 in the process. So Haynes with victory there. Next up for us, it's the battle between Justin Smith and Jim McEwen. And seeing that one for us in the commentary box is Messrs. Nicholson and Edgar.
Thank you, Messer Deacon. Great to have you with us, and great to have Jim back on the stage up against this young bearded buck right here. The bearded dragon, as he is nicknamed in the sport. Up against Chucky. I just love these battles, you know, Matt. When it comes to the nickname versus the nickname. They almost sound like a retro video game. Chucky versus the bearded dragon. It's almost got the ring of a kids program or an arcade game. But this is darts. And we're about to find out if this man from Mabel can get his first leg of the day. Even though he's averaging over 92 for 8 legs of darts so far thrown.
First leg, it's Justin to throw first. Game on.
I feel this is an important game now for Jim McEwen. Not because of the group qualification. We saw Lee Budgeon lose 3 matches
81.
on the opening day and go and win the group. And this is a group where everyone's going to beat each other over a period of the week. So you can make a charge. But I feel this is an important game because of the fact he's not registered even a dart at a double yet in terms of conversion. -8 on the legs. And he came here void of confidence as it was.
59.
It's very easy for us to sit here as well and mention that it's been 3 months since he qualified. But he has been playing a lot of darts in those 3 months. It's about how you manage yourself in the lead up to Champions Week. And as for that second visit,
140.
it was perfect. Justin was almost there himself. If they both score heavily, this one could get a little silly. This is a great first leg. Dominant so far. But I am intrigued to see what his reaction will be when he gets his first double.
Jimmy required 46.
You might not have to wait too long for that. 140, 180, 135. Gives Jim McEwen shot an 11 darter.
Game shot on the first leg.
There it is.
McEwen.
You knew it was coming. But what a leg it was. Best of the day, 11 darter. And now he can kick on from here.
Jim to throw first. Game on.
It's a very interesting dart shirt, isn't it? I know you like a bit of dart shirtery, Matt. But it honestly is quite horrifying when you pay attention to what's happening on it. There's a bit of tartan. There is a character on there that's basically spitting blood at you. If this was darts in 3D, you might actually cover your eyes.
I think Justin Smith will want to cover his
45.
eyes soon if Jim McEwen carries on the way he started in this one. Incredible form.
61.
It's got such a lovely pure action, has Justin. It's a very uncomplicated grip that he has. An uncomplicated setup, which is almost unusual these days because everybody's looking for that little bit of extra help from the equipment, whether it's tapering a barrel. You've got a regulation style barrel here with a good grip technology on it. Nothing too drastic. Standard white stem, standard flight. In the words of what you said last week, Matt, it's no nonsense. But I like his grip. It's uncomplicated. It's not too far inset in the fingers. It's a fingertip action. And when the dart is thrown through the air, it's got such a lovely, pure trajectory to it. Which is why he's a very, very good technician.
45.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of good years ahead of Justin Smith. One of those players that could just skyrocket themselves with a... What was the expression we used last week? Someone said, like, striking the match.
Yep.
I feel like that's Justin Smith. He's a box of matches.
Just don't leave him too close to the fire.
40. Jim, you require 40.
That's how accidents happen. This is no accident, though. That may be a good lie.
Game
and it
shot
was
the second leg.
2-0. Like London Buses. Doesn't win a leg in his first 2 games, and now he's got 2 in this game.
Third leg, it's Justin.
And now Justin Smith needs to breathe fire. Do you believe in dragons?
60.
Do you think they've ever existed? I mean, there's a lot of things that people believe in, okay, and I'm not going to get too opinionated. But do you think that dragons have ever existed?
No. What's next? Ghosts? No.
57.
There was a Jimmy Carr line, actually, I really like. He goes, there's a really easy way to tell if your house is haunted. And then he goes, it isn't. Grow up.
60.
Straight talking from my commentary colleague today. What we believe in are where the darts sit in the board. And the beautiful thing about this piece of technology, the Winmore Blade 6 triple core carbon, the best
26.
dartboard you can purchase, is that they have the best playing surface to throw to, and the wires these days are as
140.
thin as ever. But they still separate the mediocre from the brilliant. That's what I like to say about dartboards. There are no judges in this sport. It's all about clear, concise accuracy.
60.
That last shot from Justin Smith, I've commentated on Justin Smith many times now, and one column he fills when he starts playing well is at 140s.
100.
We'll keep an eye on that throughout the day and this week, but I reckon there'll be a game where he's like between 9 and 11 140s, if not multiple games around that sort of level.
100.
That really
Justin
should have been a 140 or more.
141.
After the first dart was put in that treble 20 bed. Treble 13.
88.
That'll do. Sometimes getting the treble 6 instead of the treble 13 isn't the worst news possible, because if you got the single 6, it might be a little bit harder to get to a double. Now it's just a single as opposed to a treble.
98. Justin, you require 53.
Can he get his first leg of this contest?
Game shot.
Yes,
on the
he
third
can.
leg. Justin Smith.
And if that is a pattern that he's going to follow, double 18 might just be a friend to him throughout the course
Fourth
of the
leg,
next
it's Jim
3
to throw
days.
first. Game on.
Started with a 4-2 loss to Colin Osborne, and then responded brilliantly with a 4-3 win against Johnny Haynes. I firmly believe that the points are going to be shared around in this group. I don't think
60.
we can delay this any longer. How many points wins Group A? Because we talked about this for Groups A, B and C last week. We were pretty good. We got it pretty accurate.
140.
This is not going to be a group that's going to be won on 26 points or 28 points. For me, it's going to be 22 or 20.
I'm going 20 in legs. Raymond Smith comes up in your next game.
100.
He's got the throw. He takes on Colin Osborne. Colin Osborne on top at the moment. After that game, we could have 3 players.
100.
In fact, we could have 4. Because if Justin Smith wins this match, he goes to 4 points. Raymond Smith wins it, he goes to 4 points. After 3 rounds, they could all be on 4.
Yeah, I think 20 points and legs is a good shout. The last time that we had
100.
Raymond Smith here, he broke the leg difference record for Group A. It was
125.
plus 31, I believe. It might have been a little bit better than that. We'll double check that for you. But he got 26 points in that group.
I'm just really confused. Jim McEwen hit that 100 in the last one, rolled his
41.
eyes and
Justin,
walked to
you
the board
require
like he's hit a 26.
136.
He's throwing good darts, but he's completely void of any sort of confidence.
Well, Justin Smith has just shaken his head at the fact that he hit the 60 with the first dart.
100.
Do they understand what they're doing as what's good and what isn't?
I mean, that's a well-thrown dart. Sat nicely on the wire. Again, just close. And I think this is just getting to him a little
60.
bit.
Justin, you require
Double
36.
18. Again. Double 8.
20.
So he is going to go for that split option
Jim, you
more
require
often than not.
140.
Every time. Every time. He always goes for the split. I've never known him just go straight for one. I've commentated on him quite a lot. That's a great first dart from Jim McEwen. Wayward with the second one.
Yeah, wrong club on that one. Long and left. Needed a 9-iron instead of the 8-iron.
74. Justin, you
It's a bit of
require
a golf
60.
joke because Scotland invented it.
Game shot on the 4th leg.
But
Justin
the man with the
Smith.
dragon on the left sleeve has just drawn level at 2 legs all. Just another sign that this group is going to be really, really
5th leg, it's Justin
tight.
to throw first. Game
2
on.
very aggressive dart shirts. Can you see the talons on that shirt from the bearded dragon? Don't get too close.
100.
Yeah, Welsh Darters not in a bad spot at the minute with Gedwin Price, Johnny Clayton. Jamie Lewis has definitely rediscovered a bit of form. Nick Kenny getting his tour card back.
140.
Jim Williams, fabulous player from Wales who won on the PDC Tour last year and was a very big hitter when
59.
we played in Southampton before he went to the tour. I haven't even mentioned the ladies from Wales. Rhiannon O'Sullivan, Rhiannon Griffiths.
44.
We've always had very, very strong men's and ladies teams at an international level as well. I wonder what Wayne Warren's going to do in 2023.
140.
Yeah, it's a strange one, really. Played that Seniors World Championship, didn't he? Played Kevin Painter there, and I've not really seen much from him since that performance.
He's genuinely one of the funniest people on
100.
planet Earth, Wayne Warren. If you need cheering up, just spend half an hour with Wayne. You'll feel right as rain.
100.
It's actually quite a nice day in Portsmouth today. The temperature has climbed by about 5 or 6 degrees, which will, I'm sure, improve the mood of the players when they start their day.
123. Justin, you require 102.
For the lead after being 2-0 down.
62.
What do you make of that play going
Jim,
for the
you
bullseye?
require 94.
I don't mind it. He hates tops. He's done everything he can to avoid tops. So, yeah, it's the right play for him. Jim McEwen, the opposite. He tries to leave tops. This would be a bit of a saviour, really, after going 2-0 up. But a couple of
Justin,
misses
you
there
require
from
40.
McEwen. Smith, who's avoided tops at every
Game shot on
cost,
the fifth leg.
finds the double
Justin
10 to take
Smith.
the lead in this one for the very first time. And you mentioned the degrees going up and the temperature going up might
Sixth leg,
change
it's
the
Jim
mood.
to throw first.
The mood
Game
is
on.
different. We was here last week, and I've done a lot of weeks in this phase on the commentary. And that practice room normally has a bit of a joyful bounce about it. Today it was tense.
Oh, I know what you're
100.
getting at. It's quiet today because Richard North isn't in there. It just feels a lot more focused because we don't have somebody who's
92.
as chatty as Richard has been over the last week. But just to massage your point there, Matt, you're absolutely right. Because it's Champions Week, everybody knows that the big check is on offer at the end of the week. And we're talking about people in form
55.
who genuinely want to be part of Saturday night.
I don't know what you're on about there, actually, about Richard North being chatty, because actually, Richard North isn't chatty, and I know that because he told me that
58.
the other day.
Was that sentence quite long?
Yeah, and it was greeted by a practice room, which sounded like an audience cheering for a goal at the football, all getting
90.
their point in very quickly.
Yeah, John Henderson was in the practice room at the time, and he walked over and said, "Did you just say you're not chatty?"
60.
His reputation precedes him everywhere he goes. Jim's reputation is silent brilliance more often than not, but he's more animated this morning than I've ever seen him.
This ain't the Jim McEwen I know. A lot of respect and time for Jim
140.
McEwen. I actually put him down to win that Lakeside Championship last year when he went there to try and become WDF World Championship. Was won by Neil Duff.
58. Jim, you require 116.
Very surprised not to see him at the Seniors World Championship. Wasn't able to get through the qualifier.
Double top.
Game
It's
shot
now
on the sixth
3-3.
leg. Jim McEwen.
Let's see what he can do in a last leg shootout against someone vastly his junior.
Well, again, the average is
Final
over
leg,
the
it's
90.
Justin to throw first.
But again, he looks
Game
like
on.
a guy who's struggling throwing 70s. What we're seeing on the dartboard side of your graphic, that camera isn't matching up with the player you're looking at
100.
on the other side of the graphic.
We promise you they're the same person and playing at that standard. but some people are very hard to please. When you get yourself into a really confident mood
140.
and you think, I'm playing to the best of my ability, having a 90 average can feel poor.
78.
But based on what Jim has been playing very recently, this is not poor. This is actually very good. And this leg isn't too bad either.
Is that what he thinks he needs to do, though? Or do you think some
85.
of this might come from the fact that he's over-respecting his opponents and thinks he's got to raise it to new levels?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And the other one I was
52.
about to make was that maybe intrinsically he doesn't feel within himself in that easy mode. Everything is hard work. So every dart is getting 100% focus,
100.
whereas sometimes he can do this without even thinking. Justin's really taken his foot off the pedal scoring-wise for me in the last leg or so, and he needs to stay on the 19s right now. The only other option is bull. I don't know what he's doing. It doesn't get to a finish,
92.
and that's because he got the maths wrong.
He spent a lot of time trying to work that one out as well, didn't he? Processing. He just couldn't figure out what he needed to do.
He had a Johnny Clayton moment there. Started with the right first dart, but just couldn't figure out how to leave the finish.
136.
And he may be about to pay the price for it.
$95.
Fair play to Jim McEwen. In
Jim,
this
you
match, he has
require
shown a
40.
very high level of performance. At the right times. But now he's only got one job left. Is that too close?
20.
I thought that was too close. If he hits the dart, it's going to bounce a centimetre down because the dart was flat.
Justin, you require 84.
If anything, his second dart was too good. I know it's a strange thing to say, but that's what happens with those tapered darts. 68 left for Justin Smith to pinch the game on double 7.
70. Jim, you require 20.
This one can't be too close. He still adjusts to his left. That one is a perfect marker.
Game, shots.
Doesn't really
and the
use
match.
it.
Jim
Didn't really need to.
McEwen.
But that was a really tight contest, and it sees Jim McEwen finally get off the mark, and he will be on 2 points when he plays in round 4 a little bit later on. There you see the averages. A couple of missed darts at double towards the end brought Jim's average below 90, but still a very interesting contest. Justin Smith will stay on 2 points for now, but we'll see him a little bit later on against Hendo. Next, it's Osborne against Raymond Smith. This one could be very good indeed, so don't miss it.
Welcome back to the MODUS Super Series, where Jim McEwen has secured a 4-3 success against Justin Smith to get off the mark in Group A here at the Live Lounge in Portsmouth. He did it with an average just underneath the 90 mark and a 116 high checkout. So Chucky, the victor there, from one Smith to another, from Justin to Raymond. He takes on Colin Osborne, and this is going to be watched in the company of Paul Nicholson and Matthew Edgar.
Yes, it is, Henry, and we are very happy that we are here to watch it, because this game promises a lot. We've seen a nice response from Raymond Smith after losing his first game. Won by 4-2 against John Henderson, but then we haven't seen a defeat at all for Colin Osborne today. He is Mr. Perfect so far, and if he can go 3 rounds undefeated, we have to start taking notice of the fact that he is very ready for this week. He's got Johnny Haynes and John Henderson to come after this, but he's not looking beyond the challenge of the Aussie. No pun intended, because that's what we call Colin. So it's Aussie versus the Aussie.
First leg, it's Raymond to throw first. Game on.
I haven't actually seen Colin Osborne for quite a bit of time, and I went in this morning, we shook hands, and we had a brief catch up, and then as I was going, I went, "Oh, you're playing well at the minute." And he just gave me a little wink and went, "Aye."
Has he got an affectionate nickname for you? Because he's one of those people who tends to make up nicknames really well for people.
60.
He just has... His phone book is littered with acronyms and nicknames for people that he just knows you by.
No.
140.
No, I don't think so, actually. I haven't noticed it, if there is.
I'll ask him a little bit later on. Depends how he's feeling, I guess. You could ask him anything you want if he wins 5 from 5 today, because he'll be in that good a mood.
I remember he used to also like making songs about people as well, didn't he? He went through that sort of period of time. I remember there used to be quite a tall player on the tour,
60.
Mickey Todd.
Mick Todd, yeah, I remember.
And the tune, "Oh Mickey Todd, his feet hang out the bed. Oh Mickey Todd, he's always banging his head," is one I don't think I'll ever forget.
96.
I remember that song, that was funny. I think he may have come up with a song with Kevin Painter as well about Barry Bates, because they used to wind him up because he's from the Cardiff area. He's a Cardiff City fan.
140.
And they started singing, "You Could Have Been Born in Bristol." Barry took it the right way.
180.
They were all very, very close pals around the 10 to 12 year ago mark. They were all pretty close together, weren't they? First maximum of the game for Aussie. I've decided that we're going to call
on the first leg.
Raymond Smith 1-0 up, because that is a beautiful 116, and expect to see plenty of $15 from him this
Colin
week.
to throw first. Game on.
You might see a few different dart shirts from the Wizard this week as well. He tends to change the colour of the stars. It actually looks like the kind of shirt that if you turned the lights off, they would glow in the dark. That would be a really good idea for a dart shirt.
91.
As for what's on the back of Raymond's, I could only speculate, and I don't really want to, because I don't want to get it wrong.
100.
But I'm still intrigued by the comment from earlier about the support is a mixed bag from Australia. I don't really know what that means. One thing I can say about Australian
81.
darts from the bottom of my heart, it's an amazing place to play. There's lots of great talents over there. A lot of them actually came to Q School as well. Not just Corey Cadby, but Jeremy Fagg was over here as well.
140.
Didn't get through, but I applaud Jeremy for coming over and giving it a go. But darts in Australia is still very political. There's still that big divide Do you know how we've almost bridged that gap between the BDO and the PDC over the years, and everybody seems to get along? It's not really that cohesive in Australia. It's still quite us and them.
60.
It's one thing we've learnt, that divisions within the sport don't grow the sport, and they certainly restrict the opportunities and the access
Colin,
that players get,
146.
which means we get less standard.
It's getting to the stage where a lot of Australians are relocating, not because of the politics, that's a very different subject, but recently Tori Kewish, the highest ranked Australian lady who was living in Australia, has actually relocated to the Netherlands.
Game shot on the
And now
second leg.
Raymond is locating himself in 15-dart range. That's 2 of them. You don't need me to tell you that's 100 average.
Third leg, it's Raymond to throw first. Game on.
I mentioned a line last week that I think is really good to describe what we've got here with the MODUS Super Series. I said, and I described it as worlds collide.
100.
The best players in all the worlds and all the codes. The best players from the Seniors Tour. The best players from the Challenge Tour. The best players from the Women's Tour. From all these different areas.
100.
But we might be about to add a new world onto that. In terms of not only the ADC here within the UK, actually when we talk about that Australian side of things.
57.
Yes, I do actually have an announcement to make, and I've been waiting for this game to make it. I have it on good authority, the top authority here at the MODUS Super Series, that from the week commencing the 8th of May,
140.
players from the ADC Oceanic region will be at the MODUS Super Series. That is monstrous news, because a lot of the time we do focus on players in Europe and particularly in the British Isles.
140.
But mark your card for Super Series 3. It will be incredible, but after that,
100.
we are going to invite people from overseas, from the Oceanic region, New Zealand and Australia. It is very exciting indeed.
Absolutely, and the growth of the Super Series, worlds collide. I think we could...
40.
Do you know what I'd like to see next?
161.
I'd like to see something from America and Canada, something from sort of like that CDC system over there, which is breeding talent at the moment. I'd like to see
55.
that invitation extended as well, and then we really will have all the best worlds collide.
It really is inevitable. So many players from that region of the world who could compete here. Chuck Paleo, Sean Brenneman,
100.
Kylie Edmond from Canada.
Colin, you require
There's just so many to choose from. But that's for another time. This time, it's double 13. That's masterful from Aussie, because that lie on that 60 was so inviting. He could undershoot that shot and sneak it into the 60 anyway. But
to throw first.
What a 106 out that was. Mega intelligent from the Wizard.
$38.
He's not someone who has flip-flopped his equipment a lot over the last 2 years since he made his mark at the start of 2021 with us. Same barrel. He's gone for that translucent flight. That's something you've used as well, Matt.
60.
Albeit in a different shape. But some players don't want to see a great deal in the board. Hence they use darker flights or translucent
41.
flights to have that almost stealth effect when they're looking at the targets. On the complete opposite scale to that, Raymond Smith is using white stems and white flights
100.
because he wants to use them as backup targets. He wants to be able to see them vividly. And he's someone who doesn't change a great deal of his equipment either.
95.
Doesn't change a great deal of anything in a game of darts, does he? Facial expression, pace, it's all the same. Just Almost the closest thing I've seen to a darting robot.
But that action is so good, he might as well be a robot. I genuinely believe as well, even though he made the last 16 of the World Championship a shade over a year ago, I think he's getting better. And I firmly believe if he makes the journey to the MODUS Super Series a couple more times this year, and if he has a really good domestic season, if he was to go into the World Championship again in about 11 months, with the right build-up, he could go even deeper than the last 16.
When he made the last 16 in the 2022 PDC World Championships, it was a surprise. It's now a surprise if it doesn't happen again.
And you might ask, why is he so good? Technically,
65.
As good as they come.
Colin, you require 146.
Mentally, he's elite. He is better than probably 90% of the PDC elite.
58.
I can't give him a bigger compliment than that because he genuinely is mentally one of the strongest players in the world.
Colin Osborne has been fantastic at these
Colin,
sort of combination
88.
finishes. Might have to be. Got a 106. Get his opening bid of this match.
81.
Just wires
Raymond
the double 7.
72.
Opportunity knocking for Raymond Smith, and he doesn't normally pass these by.
Earlier in the match, he's had 72 with 2 darts, plenty of times without success. How about 72 with 3? Different story.
Raymond Smith.
And he breaks his little schedule of 15 darters by 6 darts there.
Fifth leg, it's
that was a 21 dart leg, but it does give him the 3-1 lead. Chance to equalise Haynes and Osborne at 4 points. After 3 rounds of play, he will be back in the mix if he finds one more leg.
55.
We'll have a little talk about Colin Osborne. So we spoke quite a lot here about Raymond Smith, and we're going to do this whilst playing a little bit of a game. And I'm going to ask you,
42,
from the list of achievements here that's in front of what Colin Osborne has got, if you was Colin Osborne and you was to say, what is the one, we can only introduce you as one
100.
thing. We can't say all the titles. What's the one thing you're going to be introduced as? Now, do you pick that Champions League winner, or do you pick the UK Open runner-up, or do you pick a World Championship quarter-finalist, or do you pick Pro Tour champion? What is it out of the list of achievements that Colin Osborne has got do you go with? Because, yeah, he won that Champions League, but that was a streamed, not broadcasted
140.
Around 2009, for me, he was one of the best players in the world. In fact, it was quite a surprise that he wasn't selected for the Premier League back in 2010.
100.
He did make the final of the UK Open. But I think if I was in his shoes, I'd want to be introduced as a man who had won 7 PDC ranking titles, or PDC titles. If you think that players don't worry about this, they do. Michael Smith did not want to be called the Shanghai Darts Master anymore, so he went and won the world title in the Grand Slam. I get called
66.
former Players Champion. That's how I like it to be called, former Players Champion. But I think Aussie would like 7-time PDC title winner. Raymond Smith wants to be called the winner with a third 15-darter.
54.
But that's not meant to be.
Colin, you require 123.
Former UK Open finalist isn't too bad, though. It's almost UK Open season. Bullseye.
98.
Can't take it this time.
Raymond, you
He's been
require
clinging
12.
on to Smith, but he's had better spots than Aussie in this 9th match of the day. There's a couple of markers there. Oh,
No
how was
score.
that missed? Sometimes all you can do is smile.
All three of those right on the wire, bunched together. You could have got them in a famous mint.
With a hole.
Game shot on the 5th leg.
And there's a hole in the double
Colin
eight because this
Osborne.
game's not over yet. Just noticed on the back of Aussie's
6th
shirt
leg,
there's
it's
a hat
Colin
on
to
there
throw first.
instead of the
Game
A.
on.
You ever noticed that? I've never seen him in a hat. Because I was showing you a picture yesterday, wasn't I, of a bunch of kids in 1901
60.
who were looking at a camera for the very first time. It's a bit like a young kid looking at someone without a smartphone. These days, it's completely the opposite. But everybody in that shot had a hat on.
100.
I thought, just over 100 years ago, if you wanted to be a millionaire, you'd just be a milliner and make lots of hats. But I've never seen Aussie in a hat, even though he's got a hat on the back of the shirt.
140.
A rather resplendent hat as well. It's a top hat.
We get him a top hat to wear if he's
60.
lofting that £20,000 check up in the air on Saturday night. I think that would be fitting.
He'll have to wear it in a somewhat jaunty fashion as well, slightly to the side, a la Greatest Showman.
125.
He's not waving the white flag in this game, that's for sure. Five match darts missed
100.
for the Guru in this one. Still can't believe he missed double six. Those three knitted
85.
to the outside wire. You do get the feeling that he's going to have to focus on leg 7. And when he played 7 legs a little bit earlier on, he lost to Johnny Haynes.
It wasn't just those 3 darts. He also missed 2 in the leg before as well. So he missed 5 match darts in that one.
49.
Doesn't
Colin,
look like
you
he's going to get any
require
more in this
91.
one. Be hoping for some in the final leg.
I think mentally he's already thinking about the next leg. And on the bright side, he will have the first attack at the 60.
51.
Just because you think you're going to leg 7 doesn't mean that you can't apply pressure and hope that you get a chance. And he's left himself on double 6.
180.
How
Colin,
ironic.
you require 40.
Just gets the call going. Just makes Colin Osborne aware.
He might get a shot, you know,
No score.
because those weren't the perfect
Raymond, you
guides.
require 12.
He likes darts to sit on top of each other. And back comes Smith for that bonus chance.
Game,
And he gets his own
shot,
back on double
and the
6 for a
match,
4-2
Raymond
win.
Smith.
That is the first defeat of the day for Aussie. He should have taken it to leg 7 to give himself a chance of an unlikely win, but it's not to be, as Raymond Smith, in what we could classify as a B game performance, is still an 87.9 average. The doubles were decent, but the misses were at double 6 and double 12 earlier. They weren't too vital in the end because he nicks it by 4 legs to 2. 3 rounds of play are over, and we're going to have John Henderson against Justin Smith in game 10. It's not too far away.
This is the MODUS Super Series. $180.
Who is going to emulate Conan Whitehead and pick up that cheque for £20,000 come Saturday night? Well, we are midway through the first day's action here at Champions League at the MODUS Super Series, and it has not disappointed. Look how tight that table is at the top of Group A. 3 players all locked on 4 points at the top. The other 3 all on 2 following the first 3 rounds of matches. The winner of this one will also move on to 4. So very, very tight indeed at the top end of the table. John Henderson against Justin Smith is our next game on the hockey. It's match 10 of our session, and it's going to be watched in the company of Matthew Edgar and Paul Nicholson.
Thanks, H. John Henderson so far today, 2 points. Justin Smith, 2 points. Leg difference, -2 each. They will be separated after this game. And then after this game, we will have our final third of action. Apologies if you have made plans so far this morning to watch a game further in our session. At this point, we did have a slight internet outage at some point, which means we were incapacitated, but we are back and in full flow now with the 25-year-old from Cardigan. The Bearded Dragon against Hendo.
First leg, it's John to throw first. Game on.
Nicknamed the Highlander. Just another nickname battle that sounds like a retro video game. Who wins between the Highlander and the Bearded Dragon?
100.
In both facets, Matthew Edgar.
Well, Justin Smith actually had a match start to win his last game against Jim
100.
McEwen at the 7-7. Just came inside. John Henderson didn't hit a dart at a double in any against Johnny Haynes. He's coming into this off the back of a 4-0
41.
defeat. Does that have any bearing on this? We're going to find out. I think it's a bit closer, though, than the bookies suggested at odds
60.
of 1-2 John Henderson, 6-4 Justin Smith. I would probably put this, especially considering that we're now outside Hendo hour, 5 to 6 apiece and take your pick.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that, actually, because I think Hendo said he felt a lot more refreshed first thing this morning than, say, 7 or 6 days ago. But over the course of time, playing 5 games of darts, based on what he's done the last 10, 11 days,
51.
he may have this likelihood of tiring towards the end of a daily campaign. And that's something that the younger,
100.
possibly more energetic Justin Smith could expose. Now, what's fascinating to me is that he's playing Henderson in game 10 today. When they play tomorrow,
41.
they'll play in
Justin,
game
you
6,
require
so a little
101.
bit earlier. It was a
44.
wild last start, but I don't think he set his eyes on the right target in motion for that shot at treble 14. With pressure applied by John.
Justin, you require 57.
Smith is already there. Doesn't like tops, like Matt said. And maybe that's why.
37. John, you require 68.
Yeah, he avoids it at every single opportunity.
Game shot on the
Hendo
first
doesn't avoid the
leg.
doubles.
John
It
Henderson.
was 4-0 in his last one to Johnny Haynes. Puts that right the very first time I'm asking in this one. And I like
Second
to
leg,
listen
it's
to
Justin
the
to throw first.
players' comments
Game
at
on.
the start of the day. Because it gives us a minute of getting an insight into what they're thinking. And Jim McEwen
56.
said in his interview, it doesn't matter how you get there, because it all changes on the night. That's in relation to Saturday night.
137.
That's how I kind of feel about John Henderson this week. It doesn't matter how he gets to Saturday. When it comes to Saturday, if he's there, he will be one of the favourites.
60.
Where do you see the big opportunity for somebody this week? Now, this is a hugely competitive Group A, and only one person can go through it. But do you see
125.
big opportunities in Group B?
100%. The two players, and I'll make this prediction now, and I'm going to make it big and bold.
60.
That big and bold that I don't even doubt it. But then again, I thought the same about Luke Humphries being in the Premier League. I thought it was a nailed-on one. Positions 2 and 3 this week will
44.
both go through Group B.
Nice and succinct from Matthew Edgar, so there you have it. Whoever finishes second and third in Group A
81.
is going to qualify anyway. But I've got a really interesting question for you, and I want you to think about it before we start leg number 3. If you don't
100.
like tops as much as Justin Smith, what do you do about it? Do you continue to avoid it? Or do you say, right, I need to figure it out?
140.
answer to
John,
this
you
question
require 95.
Treble 20 or double 18.
55.
And Justin Smith
Justin, you require 104.
isn't going to leave tops here. He has the choice. Stay on the treble 18 for double 16.
72.
And Hendo is where
John,
Justin
you
does
require
not want to be.
40. Game shot on the second
He
leg.
loves it up there.
John Henderson.
He really does make some money on that double. 2-0 up, and Justin Smith has got plenty to mull. So over
Third
to you,
leg, it's
Matthew.
John to throw first. Game on.
What do you think about the negating the option of tops? Do you think get it fixed or leave it alone?
I like Justin Smith.
100.
Hate tops. I'll use it if I have to, but I don't like going there. Now, the answer to that is simple. Stop using the
60.
19s. Use the 17s. Use the 17s as your cover shot will leave you an easy breakdown to the double 16. When you use the 19s, you burn a dart at
100.
the start of the leg and you burn a dart at the end of the leg to avoid tops. So, if you should have had 2 or 3 darts at double, you end up only using 1.
100.
If you do need to use the 19s, use it once, over to the 18s. It's how you manage the board, so you don't have to leave tops. I'm very, very rarely left there,
140.
but I've learned the patterns and the breakdowns that allow me to get to that situation. And a lot of the time, it's avoiding that 19.
100. John, you require
Free advice.
161.
From Matt Edgar right there, and excellent advice at that. I see that from quite a lot of players, actually,
60.
utilising the 17s and 18s a bit more. Figure out a plan for you, as long as it has some logic. Right now we're seeing frustration.
91. John,
From
you
Smith,
require
who
101.
this time uses the 17s to their full potential with 1 dart. I'll be amazed if he doesn't go
51. Justin, you
treble
require
19 with the first dart,
150.
because he does like double 18. Don't listen to me. If you like double 18 so much, why
80.
wouldn't you go
John,
2
you
treble
require
19s to leave it?
50.
Double top.
Game shot on the
Hendo
third
is
leg.
making hay
John
up there.
Henderson.
3-0 up. And with his leg difference, like I mentioned, at -2, a big victory would get
Fourth
him
leg,
back
it's
in the
Justin
plus
to throw
column.
first. Game on.
Yeah, a lot of people get bogged down with the numbers. And they'll go, oh, yeah, but you score 6 points less for a treble 17 than you do a treble 19.
60.
It doesn't matter. 6 points, it doesn't mean you're using an extra dart. It's the dart effectiveness. 3-4-4,
99.
3-4-7, they're exactly the same situation. And it's just forgetting about the
55.
numbers and thinking about what the dart can do and how those patterns can break down. Unless you need an extra dart, then it's a bad choice. And that's when, for a double 16 player, using the 19 needs an extra dart.
180.
Hendo in the maximum column for the very first
60.
time in this match. He didn't get any maximums in his previous game, but he got 2 in his first game and 1 in the second. So he has arrested that trend.
95.
And just to embellish your point, Matt, a 99 checkout is exactly the same as 120.
72.
Treble needed. Single needed.
John, you require 127.
Simple. Not going to be 127 out for John. Doesn't like those efforts by the look on his face.
45.
Have to settle for 82 when he comes back.
Yeah, effectiveness, functionality, all those sort of words. But Justin Smith appears to be losing his head.
27.
Might be about to lose the match.
John, you require 82.
He might get 1 dart at tops. I don't think he's going to get a shot at tops. Unless he goes double 14 tops.
42.
He's left it anyway. I get the feeling that Justin is struggling with something. And it might be a grip issue
100.
because earlier in the game,
John, you
he was
require
looking at his
40.
hands. We know where John's looking. Double 10.
20.
So, 127 in game.
127.
A score I have never been able to commentate on going in yet. This could be the first. Is Justin going to treat me? My first ever 127 in game.
Game shot on the 4th leg.
There you go, Matt.
Justin
That one was
Smith.
just for you. And I think Charlie Corsteffine's just missed an open goal. But Justin Smith didn't miss it.
So it's John to throw first.
He's been frustrated
Game
in
on.
this game with something, but not with those 3 darts.
Was hoping there Charlie would join in the fun. Wonder if you're not sure what the 127 in game is.
180.
Refereeing on Phil Taylor versus Michael Van Gerwen. And MVG
100.
took out a 127. And it was called 127 in game.
But the funniest thing about that whole situation are the looks of Van
100.
Gerwen and of Phil Taylor, as if to say, did you win that leg? That was a very unusual call.
And the music doesn't play for about 30 seconds.
100.
Then, in Southampton, Paul Hinks was with us, and somebody scored 124,
Andy Jenkins.
and he hit 124 in game, because he did exactly the same.
123.
When somebody does that, you just got to let them have it. That's it's Paul Hinks's thing. He's been one of our referees here down at the MODUS Super
60.
Series, and he's
John,
a
you
great guy.
require 98.
Double 19. Doesn't have to go for it. Double 14. He was going for a 6. He's a little bit frustrated that he has missed the single. All is well
70.
when you come back.
When you get those 2 singles that are together, you can tend to throw a lazy dart at it. And that's why last week, if you remember when I said I like the fact they homed in on the treble on the combination, just so you don't
John, you
slip into
require
the
28.
comfort zone.
Well, double
Game,
14 is
shots,
taken by
and the
Hendo for a
match,
4-1
John
victory.
Henderson.
He really did boss that game. He was the better player by some margin. And Justin Smith is now rooted at the bottom of the table on 2 points. But on leg difference, he's a little bit better off than Jim McEwen. He'll see one more game for his day to try and get to 4 points for the day. But John is already there, and he has a chance to get to 6 a little bit later on against Colin Osborne in game 13. Great doubling there from John at 50%. We will see him later, but after this, it will be Osborne up against Johnny Haynes. Don't go too far. That's coming right up.
Welcome back to the MODUS Super Series, where we are heading towards the final furlong in our opening day of Champions Week here in Series 2. Before the break, we saw John Henderson get a 4-1 victory against Justin Smith, ensuring there's now a four-way tie at the top on 4 points in Group A. And so we head into the final round of fixtures, which begins with this battle between Colin Osborne and Johnny Haynes. These two looking to get another victory to finish off their day. Can they get it? Let's find out. Here's Paul Nicholson and Matthew Edgar.
One thing that is guaranteed, Henry, is that someone's going to get to 6 points in this game and set the pace going into the final 4 matches of our schedule for Monday. An up and down time of it, but most of the times have been up with some great darts today. The only thing we haven't really seen today, from a realistic point of view, is somebody average over 100 yet, which is quite surprising, but I'm sure it's only a matter of time before somebody does. Equally, the best average so far is 96.97. 2 people have done that. Henderson against McEwen, and Osborne did exactly the same against McEwen in Game 6.
First leg, it's Colin to throw first. Game on.
The overall best average of the day was actually 98. That was Jim McEwen, but that was a losing average. The 96.97 is the best winning average, which
100.
is always a more true reflection.
Are we seeing today some people losing with higher stats because of the overall quality?
45.
We were privileged to some information about John Henderson from last week, and then we looked at his 12-month average. That was down by about 4 points last week
60.
from the previous year. But I seem to think, off the top of my head, that that's because he's playing against people who are sticking in those 100 averages, the 105s, the 110s. And when you're playing people doing that more regularly, your averages tend to inflate because you get less darts at double, and you tend to up your game against those kind of players as well.
58.
And not to forget, though, with that John Henderson last week was tired, and there was games in there that he threw tired games where he's averaging in the 70s, and it's not Hendo-esque. And that would have pulled down the overall statistics, which by about
100.
anything 4 to 6 points, which it is. It's around about the 4-point mark there. Colin Osborne, 12-month running average of an 86.45. When he qualified, he averaged 87.66. So only a point in that. So not too much in terms of the range there. So if we say he's averaging that here, and he's averaging 86 elsewhere, we could really say he's going to average 87 for the whole of this week, because we've got a very good read.
And it's not a bad barometer for success here at the MODUS Super Series, because we always say that you need to be between 87 and 90 to qualify for a week. Your doubles percentage is going to have to be around 35%
40.
plus.
Colin, you require 140.
That's what these guys do on a mean basis all the time. Every now and again, they will put their foot down and do something spectacular.
100.
Ozzy has had some spectacular shots today. And the one thing he has done today, Matt, is he's had a ton-plus checkout in every game he's played.
95. Colin,
Highs
you
of
require
116 in his
40.
first game, 135, which was brilliant in the second match.
Game shot on the first
He had a
leg.
106 in the
Colin
previous
Osborne.
one, and he starts with a 40 here in leg 1.
Second leg, it's Johnny to throw first. Game on.
Just looking at the final games that the players played actually in order to get here.
127.
We've seen the graphic. I mean, I think it's one of the most iconic graphics of this series so far, Super Series 2, where Colin Osborne was throwing and Aaron Monk was in
60.
the background with the hands on the head, sort of stretching the back, thinking, what is going on? The reason we was thinking that, because Colin Osborne averaged 97.18
36.
in that match.
Made it look easy as well. He'd been through the ringer that night, but really set himself loose in that final
28.
match of week number 4, which seems like a long time ago. Johnny Haynes, though, I do believe he's got the biggest
41.
average of Super Series 2, 109.99. You wouldn't really associate those kind of statistics with Johnny throughout his career. He's always been a steady horse.
95.
But you do get the feeling, even though his interview with Henry was quite short in his answers a little bit earlier, you think that maybe he's found
87.
equipment at its time and a mentality at this time of life that has clicked him into a very different modality.
60.
And he's one of those players, like a Paul Hogan, who never really
85.
committed to trying to chase down the professional points and be a professional player. He'd turn up to one event, have a good run in that, and then, oh, that's me done for the year now.
It doesn't suit everybody.
140. Johnny,
I
you
was talking to
require
Colin this morning, and he said that
125.
playing in the MODUS Super Series and a few fringe events, it provides him with the amount of rest that he wants.
65. Colin, you require 180.
This is not a rest week, Colin. This is time for you to get your soul ton plus check out of this match so far. He just runs out of room.
58.
He's trying to do what he did with
Johnny,
the
you
106 in the
require
previous
60.
game, just sneak a dart over the top. But there was a little bit too much there in the way of error. Double 10.
Game shot on the
And
second
Johnny
leg.
does get
Johnny
that first leg
Haynes.
of this contest in 21 darts.
Third leg, it's Colin to throw first. Game on.
We mentioned the numbers about when Colin Osborne, came through. I saw Colin, saw Monk.
100.
I went with his father's name there, Colin Monk.
He played in it as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he played here a few weeks ago. He was mightily impressive. I thought he could have gone on to win the week that week, actually. It was actually won
99.
by Matt Clark in the end. He beat Kevin Painter. But Johnny Haynes won week 9. He beat Neil Duff, the Duff man, the WWF World Champion.
100.
89.18 for him. Couple of 180s, but that was pulled down by quite a lot of missed doubles. He's 4 from 15 that night, and could have tightened those up a little bit. He could have been throwing the same sort of numbers that Osborne thrown in qualifying and
140.
lofting the big novelty check up into the air.
What do you make of Neil Duff in the MODUS Super Series, actually? Because he's lost in 3 finals now. Has not made it to a Champions Week yet.
60.
Will it be a mental battle for him when he returns?
It will be if he becomes aware of it or if he thinks it's a problem. Jim McEwen is not playing bad darts,
44.
but he thinks he is, and he thinks it's a problem, and it becomes a problem. And it becomes a problem because it only takes something small to go wrong, and it's, oh, here we go again. And we've seen
135.
that reaction in him as well today.
And what do you make of Neil Duff's chances next week at the World Seniors Championship?
I think there's potentially... And last year,
40.
I thought there
Colin, you
was 3
require
winners, maybe.
106.
This year, I'll make at least 12. Competitive.
I've mentioned 106 checkout for Osborne already. He's not going to get it here.
82.
He's got the next best thing. Johnny Haynes has not got a ton plus checkout all day yet. So he's the exact antithesis
140.
of Osborne,
Colin, you require 24.
who's got one in every game. Hendo hasn't got a ton plus finish either. But that's not what we're looking for here. That
Game
is
shot on the third leg.
right in the corner.
Colin Osborne.
6 being used by quite a few players today.
Fourth
It was
leg, it's
actually
Johnny
used
to
to
throw
beat Colin
first.
Osborne by
Game
Raymond
on.
Smith. Last time we saw Colin Osborne on the hockey. was after
96.
Raymond Smith put 3 right on the wire. And then in a separate leg was left on the 6 again. Not a commonly used double, other than on
80.
Monday the 30th of January 2023.
I can't believe it's January the 31st tomorrow.
60.
It'll be 13 years tomorrow since I won my PDC Major Championship. 13 years ago. Ozzy was there on that famous night for myself. He was in the semi-finals.
96.
He lost to Mervyn King. It could have been me against Colin in the final.
And do you know what else it means because it's the 30th of January?
140.
I think you're about to tell me, aren't you?
It means it's only 329 days till Christmas.
Just going to go and open the door so Matt can leave.
85.
Some of us like January, so we don't have to look forward to Christmas. We love Christmas, don't get me wrong, but I actually like spring and I like winter as well.
165.
I love this time of year. Everybody gets so excited about things. Johnny's excited about the fact that he's left a double after 12, which is a distinct improvement on the leg that he's already won so far, which was in 21 darts.
100. Johnny, you require 40.
This should be in.
Game shot on
you
the
go.
fourth leg. Johnny Haynes.
They're very like those darts, aren't they? They're bunting like. All you got to do is give them a
Fifth
little
leg,
bit
it's
of
Colin to throw
propelling,
first.
and the
Game
dart
on.
will do the work. You ever been to Middlesbrough?
100.
The home of Colin Osborne and Glenn Durrant?
This is such a ironic conversation. I've been there once, and it actually came when I did a one-day trip in a
85.
minibus that started in Portsmouth. So, obviously I used to do the wrestling, and where I used to train was in Portsmouth, near the football ground.
180.
An old promotion called the FWA, which no longer run. It used to be known as the
60.
best training centre in Europe. And I came down here, and while I was down here, we had a guy on camp who actually went off to WWE, and he's now in AEW, known as PAC. Adrian Neville, I believe he wrestled under.
85.
He had a show in Middlesbrough. So we all got in the minibus, and we drove from Portsmouth to Middlesbrough so we could watch PAC. And then we came
45.
back
Colin,
the
you
same
require
night, and then we was up
136.
a couple hours later for training.
That's quite the journey. So you didn't see a great deal of Middlesbrough then?
We wasn't there for long enough, and I certainly wasn't long enough to try a Palmo.
96.
I don't even know what Colin Osborne's thoughts are on Palmos.
I know that when I look at
41.
it, it looks like
Colin,
something
you
I would
require
like to try.
40.
I'll have to make you one. Double 10 for the lead again. That's got a nice ring to it.
20.
20 when you're needing 40 does not.
270, while your opponent sat on 20, is also a knot.
140.
Into it quite a bit.
Colin, you require 20.
130 was quite a famous finish last week.
Game shot on the fifth leg.
Yes, it was.
Colin Osborne.
So quite a few double 10s as well. And Osborne takes the lead again. Yes, if you didn't see the 130
Sixth leg,
check
it's
out by
Johnny to
Jared
throw
Cole on
first.
Friday,
Game on.
it was remarkable. And it was voted by our fans on social media as finish of the week.
96.
So, congratulations to Jared for that. But I know he was devastated in not getting the job done on Saturday night to join us here today.
I've got to say, the fans of the MODUS Super Series got that absolutely spot on. I have not, in all my time of being
60.
here, seen such an important finish from a position where I thought he had no chance. Because it's not just the 130, it was
85.
the 140 in the setup to the 130 at a point where he was about to look in real danger of even having any opportunity.
Yeah, it was one of those finishes that I'm sure
44.
Reece Colley is still feeling now. 3 days later. It's like somebody is about to kick you somewhere unmentionable with a
44.
run-up. That's how it would have felt for Reece. Can Colin give himself a run up here towards the finishing line? Or is he going to have to rely on a 7th leg?
100.
Started strongly and won in 6 legs against Justin Smith. Then in 4 against Jim McEwen.
140.
And then lost 4-2 to Raymond Smith. He should have taken it the distance. But he's not been the distance all day.
$140.
Chance for Haynes
Johnny,
to take us there then.
136.
We did see this finish last week from Richard North, but via the 16s avenue. 2 trebles and tops he went. Johnny's
60.
a little bit more traditional
Colin, you require 157.
on that number, but this is a chance for Aussie to get that ton plus finish once again.
60. Johnny, you require 76.
Back for the 60 then. 2 8s. And we have a
shot
level
and
game.
sixth leg. Johnny Haynes.
So for the first time today, Osborne goes the distance. As for Haynes, his very first game of the day was won.
7th and final leg. It's
by
Colin
4
to
legs
throw
to 3.
first. Game on.
And he didn't have the darts then either. So that's a good sign.
$100.
If you were to describe Johnny Haynes in one word, what would it be?
100.
Relaxed.
I think that's pretty fair. He walks around the stage, he looks like he hasn't got a care in the world.
He
might have one now, because he's a maximum behind.
There it is. There's the word. Careless. That's the one.
But in a positive sense.
Absolutely.
60.
Doesn't worry about too much. Doesn't overly plan. Probably doesn't know what day it is today. Just gets on with it.
That's the beautiful thing about
66.
the MODUS Super Series when he's sitting in the commentary chair. You know exactly what day it is. It's got such a lovely routine to it.
And I'm very similar. You know, like that Christmas.
125.
Colin, you
Between
require Christmas and New Year, where you just don't know what
155.
day it is.
Yep.
I think Johnny Haynes lives in that week, 365.
I would hear that. It's going to be the first game today where Osborne does not get a ton plus out.
99.
But he won't care as long as he gets the points. 56 away from 6 points in the table to vault himself over Johnny Haynes to the top. Before this game
82.
began, they were
Colin, you
level
require
on
56.
points and leg difference. The difference between these two is about to be felt.
Game,
The difference
shot,
between them
and the match.
is that
Colin
shot in the sisal.
Osborne.
4-3 to the Wizard. And there is that somewhat careless attitude from Johnny Haynes. He doesn't spend his time worrying, and he doesn't spend mental bandwidth on disappointment. He's already looking forward to his final game of the day, which will be against Jim McEwen in Game 15. We'll see Colin again in a couple of games' time. But before that, it's going to be Jim McEwen against Raymond Smith to close out round 4 after that 86.76 average and 50% on the doubles for Colin Osborne.
Welcome back to the MODUS Super Series, where Colin Osborne has moved on to 6 points here in Group A of Champions League by getting the better of Johnny Haynes in a last leg decider by 4 legs to 3. Well, this game is going to round off the 4th round of fixtures out of 5 we're going to see here on Monday at the Super Series. It sees Raymond Smith, who's won 2 from his 3 matches, up against Jim McEwen, who got victory in his previous encounter. Who's going to be the victor in this one? Let's find out. Matthew Edgar and Paul Nicholson are standing by in the commentary box.
Thanks again, Henry. We have a very, very tightly packed table here. And even though Jim McEwen started poorly today in the result column, Matthew Edgar, he's got a really, really good chance of getting himself in a decent position after 4 fixtures today. Because if he beats Raymond Smith here, he'll be only 2 points behind the leader Osborne with 3 other players on 4 points. So things could have been a lot worse for him.
First leg, it's Jim to throw first. Game on.
This is what happens when you take 6 champions and put them against each other. The table bunches up. Ashley Budgeon what it's like to lose your first 2 games. He went on to win the group.
140.
And that's a luxury he couldn't afford on Saturday night, because you lose your 2 games in the group on Saturday night and you're gone. Raymond Smith doesn't know anything about losing 2 straight games here at the MODUS Super Series, because in all of his experience with us, it's never happened. First game today, lost.
41.
After that, won. After that, won. Good response after losing a game that he arguably could have won. But we go all the way back to Group A.
55.
In week number 7, he didn't lose 2 consecutive games that whole time. The only person to beat him in Group A back then was Ben Robb, and that was on 2 separate days.
45.
And he didn't lose on finals night.
It's strange how that happens, isn't it? Because we had this a few weeks ago as well. I think it was the week Kevin Painter won the group. He finished on 26 points.
46.
And he lost a game, but it was to the same player. Might have been Dave Prinz, I think it might have been. And everyone else he beat. But when you just lose to that one, how often do they come back and get you again?
Maybe Kevin Painter doesn't like badgers. By the way, Dave Prinz is nicknamed the Badger. It's nothing to do with the animal.
100.
I
Jimmy
wonder how Kevin's going to get on with Ronnie
145.
Baxter next week in the World Seniors. That's an interesting draw. They've both played at their heights at pretty much the same time. Played in the same England squad.
I actually commentated on a game that Ronnie Baxter played. It was at the Seniors World Match Play. And I didn't know what to expect from Ronnie Baxter. I was actually even hearing rumours about possible dartitis. And he went up and he had a fantastic game.
100.
Played really, really well.
Jimmy
Kevin will have his work cut out
65.
there with Ronnie Baxter.
I'd like to say first blood McEwen, but he's already got blood on his shirt.
25.
I may not be saying first blood Jim McEwen.
100.
The guru might have the answer. He's going to go for the 60, I believe. Because he doesn't do double doubles.
78. Jimmy required 40.
Of all the shots to go for right there, was that one the wrong one? Because the 60 was almost guarded by his own dart. It's an important shot.
30.
And he hooks it.
Raymond
In that
required
situation,
22.
I'm probably the worst player to ask because I'd have been on the treble 16, to be honest. So sometimes you do things even though you know they're not right.
No score.
They're not right, and somewhat uncharacteristic misses from
Jimmy
Raymond.
required 10.
Back for double 5. He's going round the houses. And he's going to the other side of tops.
Game
And that one
shot on
does yield the
first
leg in
leg.
24
Jim
darts.
McEwen.
Have you ever heard this thing
Second leg,
in
it's Raymond
psychology
to throw
called
first.
word
Game on.
association?
Okay, is that in relation to like an anchor?
You say a word and then you automatically think of the first thing that comes to mind.
140.
I've noticed over the course of time that there are one-word associations or one-name associations with certain players. And your identity is as strong as your one-name association.
125.
So if you think about Michael, who do you first go to?
If we're talking darting sense, we'll have to go with Van Gerwen.
See, there you go. That's what Michael Smith would struggle with. Or any other Michael.
100.
If you think about a Raymond, you'll probably go Van Barneveld. So Raymond's brand struggles in that regard because he's not the most famous Raymond. But if you said McEwen, there's only one
45.
McEwen in everybody's mind.
Oh, let me have a go at this game actually. Then let me give you some yellow,
Chisnell.
and that's where we look at that in terms of the branding away from
100.
the player.
Absolutely. So if you are looking to get yourself a nickname or an image, think about your one-word association with your brand. For me, it's probably sunglasses, maybe, or
84.
buffoon.
Raymond, you require
I've got many,
161.
but unfortunately, I'm not allowed to say what they are on air because we'll probably get cut off.
We could call them keywords. So for Raymond's
65.
branding, we'd probably have to call him the Guru a little bit more, or just Guru, because there's no "the" on the back of his shirt.
Or we could add to it, could call him Raymondo.
Not 140.
scoring
Raymond, you
A
require
heap of
96.
maximums today, like he was the last time he was here, but maybe he's just warming up. Smith has got a shot at double eight.
88.
And he's missing doubles on the
Junior
left-hand side of the
require
board. That's 4 of
107.
them now in 2 legs. This is the ultimate patience game here. Probably the 2 more deliberate players in this group. That's a great recovery.
This would just grow the frustration that you can actually see written all over the face of
93.
Raymond Smith.
Raymond, you require 8.
He said he struggled with the darts down the left-hand side. Let's see how he gets on with the right.
Game shot on the second leg.
Maybe that's the key
Raymond
today.
Smith.
He is someone who looks at patterns. Maybe the right side of the board is going to yield more success than the left.
Third leg, it's Jim to throw first.
So just going
Game
back
on.
to that previous conversation, it'd kind of be advisable for Raymond Smith to consider, because I certainly have a play on my name, depending where I am. I've been Matt Edgar, Matthew Edgar, Matty Edgar. I've been known as MJ
60.
before, my first 2 initials. So there's been lots of different places where I've done that. And do you know what stopped me doing MJ? AJ Styles. Started calling himself AJ Styles, so it stopped me wanting to know as MJ.
So there you go.
I didn't want to be known as someone
140.
copying, even though I was doing it before him. Maybe he could change it to Ray Smith. And, you know, his son Kai Smith, I looked through the World Championships earlier. That's spelt with a very short sort of abbreviation, maybe. Raymond should become Ray.
60.
Yeah, I think for a branding perspective, it would be a smart thing to do. But I think that would be dependent on whether he wants to join the Pro Tour sometime in the future. Depends on his ambitions.
100.
When you got, there's only one Hendo. Even though Jordan Henderson at Liverpool in England, they call him Hendo, and I said, no, there's only one Hendo, and that's John Henderson. With all due respect to Jordan.
58.
When you have the same surname as somebody else, you put a bit more into
100.
the first name as well. There were 2 Andersons. Kyle and Gary. But if you think Gary, you think Anderson. If you think Kyle, you think Kyle Anderson. So it's the strength of the first name as well.
And Raymond's got a lot of competition for that Smith.
He has. He's got a fair bit of competition in this game as well.
161.
We'll have a bit of fun with that in the next leg. Because Raymond is looking for a very, very big 6-start conversion here.
143.
I meant to say Jim, actually, not Raymond. I'm getting confused. Doesn't show a great deal of emotion on that miss. And that's a bit more
92.
Jim-like.
Raymond
Earlier in the day, he was
61.
showing way too much to his opponent. Double 18.
Game shot
Break
the
of
third
throw.
leg. Raymond Smith.
14 darts. Things are starting to look up on the right side of the board. Double
Fourth leg, it's
4,
Raymond to throw
double
first.
18.
Game on.
Much better in the way of results than double 11 and other stuff on the left-hand side. First name, Glenn. Who's the first one you
81.
think of?
It'd be Durrant at the moment.
Well,
yeah.
there you go. I thought you might have tried to poke fun at Glenn, actually, by saying the word Moody. Someone who made, I think it was the quarterfinals of Lakeside, didn't he, Glenn Moody?
Yeah, he had a bit of a
60.
rundown there, but I suppose you'll get the luxury of doing that later on this week, won't you? Get to poke a bit of fun at Glenn. He's a nice, easy target.
I think it's only fair that the three-time world champion is
100.
the most favoured Glenn. Everybody wishes they can just get the one big title to their name when they're coming through the ranks.
140.
Only serious talents get more than one. I wonder which title means the most to Raymond Smith out of all of the ones that he's won. We'll do a bit of delving into that when he plays his next match.
180.
Because he is shooting forward to the finishing line for this one at a much swifter rate than his opponent. He's going to need a maximum to tap Raymond on the shoulder.
140
he will take.
Raymond, you require 140.
Needs another. I've always liked that.
100.
It's a bit of a
Jimmy
quirky thing. You know, when someone goes, like, try that
161.
140, then it's like, Raymond, you require 140. I like it when someone scores what the other person's left.
Yeah, it's the old school call from the referees. 140. Such and such, you require 140. They don't really do that anymore, do they?
And they always say it in a
55.
different tone as
Raymond,
well.
you require 40.
Double top for 3-1.
Game shot on the fourth leg.
All of a sudden,
Raymond
Guru,
Smith.
as he's known, is starting to stretch his legs a little bit. It's not his A++ stuff,
Fifth leg, it's
but
Jim
this
to
is what
throw
he can
first.
do all the time.
Game on.
91.5. He can make this the norm. And that makes him the 3 best words in this game. Hard to beat.
Just keeping on the theme of referee calls, something else that's changed a
81.
bit recently in referee calls as well. Before, if someone thrown a bit of a spanner into the works and had a bad visit, the referee would go, 10 scored. Now they just go, 10.
That's true.
131.
We did have last week a very short call for Hendo, which was 5. And it was just 5. It wasn't 5 scored. This is a bit more than 5. Lovely camera angle to see the behaviour of the
180.
dart when it hits the other darts. Beautifully done there from Jim.
I believe it's Kirk Bevins and Russ Bray, probably the 2 left standing of the era of 5 scored.
121.
It's another area of this game that has a lot of identity when it comes to things like 180 calls. Even the way you would say a more mundane score like 96. Or if you're Anthony Dundas of
60.
Scotland, the way you say 174. If that's in, that's an unbelievable dart.
99.
You think about the way that Raymond's darts go on the board. Surely you can't get the dart to go over the top of that. But if you look at the way he addresses the dart towards his cheek, he actually starts with it quite steep. So the arc
60.
of what he
Raymond
throws
required
is quite loopy.
150.
There it is. It's a little bit further down. That's a very upright angle of attack, but his ability to get them over the top and underneath is uncanny.
134.
That just leads itself
Jimmy
to the
required
possibility that the dart can
120.
spend even longer in the air, so more things can go wrong if the arm doesn't move quick enough. So tension is not a friend of Raymond Smith.
Double top is a friend for Jim. Maybe.
Game
It
shot
is.
the fifth leg.
He stops
Jim
Smith from
McEwen.
getting a match dart. That was a great shot.
Sixth leg.
And
It's
so
Raymond to
far,
throw
that's his
first.
biggest finish
Game on.
of the day. Just when he needed it. Just trying to establish some of the patterns that are occurring for the players at this point
100.
of Monday's play. Raymond Smith has had one maximum every game. No more than one, nothing less. McEwen has had 2 180s in 3 matches and 1 in the other.
140.
He's, at this stage, about as likely to get a maximum as anybody. And he's played, I think, the least legs of anybody. So pick that apart, if you will.
60.
I keep saying he's playing well. He is. He just doesn't think he is.
Oh, he's playing well. He might be 3-2 down.
But
he's got 3 180s.
180.
And he's got a great chance of taking us the distance.
Do you know, you mentioned about Raymond Smith here and how he's averaging sort of in that low 90s and you can live
81.
there all day. The reason is when you draw your eye to that tons column. 14 scores of 100 or more against the 3 of Jim McEwen.
Yeah, and this is leg 6. So he's got more than 2
141.
every leg. And his 140 count and 180 count are not that big. But I suppose when you think about it, they can't be big because they rob you of opportunities to get
140.
shots like 105
Jimmy
or
required
100.
40.
This has got to go. If it doesn't, it could be a 15th ton plus throw for Raymond Smith.
30.
Let's find out if that's the case.
Raymond to require 120.
If he hits this, his ton plus throws for the match will be 5 times as many as his opponent.
100.
Hits his own flight.
Jim, you required
That one
10.
missed by a good 2 inches.
Jim thought that was game over. As soon as the treble 20 went in, he thought, oh, here we go again. A man void of confidence. He went 3 for double 1 earlier on. And it was successful. He loves this part of the board, the tops area. And
Game
it's just
shot on the
next
sixth
door.
leg.
And that is
Jim
not a
McEwen.
replay. That is a live feed there for you. Jim McEwen does it again. And, more importantly,
7th and final leg.
a
It's
break
Jim
of
to throw
throw.
first. Game
Jim
on.
McEwen now throwing to turn this around. We pointed out Lee Budgeon last week lost his first 2 games and went and won Group A. Jim McEwen lost his first 2 games. Can he now make that 2 wins in a row?
I'm starting to understand why he's called Chucky, you know.
100.
Because when you play him, He makes you feel like you're going through a meat grinder. He'll use your bones for his bread.
55.
You've got to be patient against Jim. Everybody knows he's a bit more deliberate. But there's nothing more infuriating than playing someone who's deliberate and good. I always used to say that about Justin Pipe. He wasn't just slow, but he was good as well. So you'd have to
60.
watch and wait for the referee to call 140 or 180. A lot. It's like somebody just taking a very sharp nail and rubbing it down the back of your leg, and you think, oh, I know there's blood there, but I just got to take it.
140.
When Raymond comes back, he must, in my opinion, start on the 19s. Because Jim is going to be ahead of him by quite some distance.
You just got to keep the shot active as possible. Jim McEwen to close this leg out. He is. He's going down. Sensible play here from Raymond. 4 19s would have left him on. He probably doesn't like the lie coming back upstairs.
59. Jim, you require
Don't forget just how good that 120 checkout was a couple of legs ago. Or indeed the 10 checkout in the previous leg. And I always say, if you want to win darts matches against people like Raymond Smith, you've got to stop them getting a match dart. However,
90.
Raymond has had a match dart at tops for a 120 himself. But by missing that one shot, he may pay the ultimate price in this game. You can't get to anything
Jim, you
in the way of a finish.
71.
So McEwen can do whatever he wants. It's going to be treble 17. Has he ground Raymond Smith to a halt?
31.
We'll find out when he comes back.
Both players have had a match dart. Both players had a match dart at tops. Jim McEwen will get another 3 match darts. And Raymond cannot stop that from happening.
Jim, you require
First
40.
170 of the week. But it doesn't take the match or the leg. He might get anything for it.
Game,
and he doesn't get anything for it. Jim McEwen plotted his way through that one masterfully and dodged 1 match dart along the way. But he does get himself 2 4 points in the table. And that means now, after 4 rounds of play, McEwen's on 4 and there's only 1 player on 2 points. That's Justin Smith. 89.36, and he defied a much better average from his opponent. Yes, averages do lie to you. The better average and the better checker percentage came from the opponent, but the man who has 4 legs gets the 2 points. To start our last round of matches, it's going to be Colin Osborne against John Henderson. Don't miss that after this.
Welcome back to the MODUS Super Series, where Jim McEwen has got the better of Raymond Smith by 4 legs to 3. Smith with an average of over 96 and on the wrong end of the scoreline. McEwen hitting 4 maximums in that match. In terms of the league table, this is what it does to it following the conclusion of 4 rounds of fixtures, and it sees 4 players on 4 points. It's Colin Osborne in the lead in the table on 6, Justin Smith at the bottom on 2. So things really are hotting up. Things really are getting tight at the top of Group A, but we'd expect nothing less from Champions Week as we enter the final round of fixtures for day 1 of it. And it sees Colin Osborne take on John Henderson. And in the commentary box, here's Matthew Edgar and Paul Nicholson.
Thank you, Henry. This one's got a heavyweight feel to it. 2 players who have won PDC titles. Hendo with the World Cup in 2021. And Osborne with 7 titles in his career. But what I can tell you is that they have played before 3 times, but this is the first time they've ever played anywhere that doesn't start with the letter B. We'll get into that in a minute. But Hendo will not have the darts. Osborne will start. And he has an option of 8 points for the day. And if he wins this game, he will be atop the table going into Tuesday.
We saw Raymond Smith lose his last game there to Jim McEwen. That was the second time we've seen Raymond Smith get beaten now.
First leg, it's Colin to throw first. Game on.
Colin Osborne got 3 wins on the board. John Henderson got 2. Do you still keep the faith with Raymond Smith? Is this just day 1, it doesn't really matter too much, or has his position as favourite of winning this,
97.
which the bookies said, which all 3 of myself, you and HD all agreed that that was the correct play? Is that still the correct play for you?
I'm going to stick with him because I'm very, very stubborn. And I'm going to stick with him because I know he's got a great deal of endurance as well. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm wrong, because if anybody can categorically pick a winner in the Champions Week, they know more about the game of darts than I do. I think we can make a more informed choice.
100.
Maybe come Friday night. But at this moment, it's a very, very early stage of the week. And Raymond Smith is still at the top of my tree. But
94.
I mentioned that this is the first time that these 2 have met in a place that isn't starting with the letter B.
40.
Their 3 meetings have
Colin,
come
in
Benidorm, in Bolton, and in Barnsley. If that's not the epitome of luxury, I don't know what is.
134.
Benidorm was a Players' Championship back in 2012. That was won by Osborne 6-5. Their closest meeting to date.
Required 36.
They played in the UK Open that same year, and Osborne won 4 legs to 2.
Game
and he's 1-0 up in this one in 15
Colin
darts.
Osborne.
That meeting at the UK Open back in 2012 was their only meeting. Best of 7 legs.
Second
the others
leg, it's
were
John
best
to
of
throw
11.
first. Game on.
We used to enjoy that Benidorm Players' Championship. We used to in January,
100.
didn't we? So get Q School out the way, and the first Players' Championship would be over in Spain. Nice little resort.
Yeah, I made the final that year in 2012.
55.
It wasn't a memorable final. I got done 6-0 by Justin Pipe.
Do you know what used to surprise me about that event? Now, we'd all go over, and for us, the temperature
59.
at the time was baking because we're used to the UK. But anytime you'd walk around, all the locals would all have coats on, and they'd be wrapped up. You could really tell the difference between the locals and the tourists.
140.
Do you know the one thing I remember about that Benidorm trip more than anything else in 2012? Alex Roy got mugged. He had his jewellery stolen.
134.
And my immediate thought after asking myself, I hope Alex is okay. Who would have the audacity to mug Alex Roy? He was massive.
100.
He's a scaffolder. Honestly, he could use me and you for dumbbells.
100.
There's a degree of urgency on the face of Osborne.
100.
And if you are an Aussie
John, you
fan,
require 108.
you're liking what you're seeing today. He's been in good nick. Hendo had a lot of people cheering for him here
Colin, you
on
require
Saturday night and from
106.
afar as well. Dare say if he makes Saturday night, he's going to have a lot of fans here again. And you can be here as well, remember.
58.
Tickets are free of charge, but
John, you
I
require
guarantee you in Champions
24.
Week, they're going to be gone fast. What's double six again?
Game shot on the second leg.
Seeing quite
John
a bit of attention
Henderson.
today is the 3 o'clock double on the board. And this one's 1-all.
Third leg, it's Colin to throw first. Game on.
What do you think John is learning about himself over the last 8 days with us?
100.
I think he's learning how to Google and how to find laundrettes. Because he's come straight here from the
83.
Challenge Tour. He's had no opportunity to go home yet. So he's on the road here for 2.5 to 3 weeks with probably 1 suitcase worth of stuff. See, these are all things you don't tend to think about. But
180.
that would be how he probably spent his day off yesterday.
Yeah, he's probably getting his laundry done yesterday thinking, do you know what, there's a really nice jumper in my dress for home that I want to wear, but I can't
137.
because it's about 750 miles away. I hope he brought his Celtic shirt with him.
68.
I'm sure he has. He's probably been eating dinner in that. Buys every shirt, does John. I know I'm going to be wearing a Newcastle shirt tomorrow. Newcastle Southampton tomorrow in the semi-final of the Carabao Cup.
45. Colin, you require
There's a rumour going around that maybe
153.
Chris Dobie will be paraded around the ground at half-time with the Masters trophy. I know he's definitely going to the game.
55.
Probably shouldn't mention it to Colin Osborne. He's a Middlesbrough fan. Doesn't care for Newcastle too much.
If you want to see someone change from 0 to 60,
100.
just watch Paul Nicholson watch football.
Colin, you require
He goes from
98.
calm and placid to football hooligan within the same 10 seconds.
Yeah, I'm not a nice person to be around when it comes to sport.
Game shot on the third
And Osborne's
leg.
not the
Colin
right kind of person to
Osborne.
be around when he's hitting shots like that because he's going to beat you and beat you down. I think most people are
Fourth
like
leg,
that,
it's
though.
John to throw first.
Lee Evans, the
Game
comedian,
on.
once made a reference that football fans have all got Tourette's syndrome. They can be
99.
simple and talking to you like this, and all of a sudden the referee makes a decision, and then you're up off your seat, and the expletives just start to flow. That's
95.
passion, and that is manifested brilliantly by dart players in a much more calm environment. But when the fans are here,
180.
they can't stop. Just think about Adam Warner a few weeks ago when he had his fans here. He erupted on that stage. And the fans would have erupted if they'd seen that 180 from Hendo.
140.
Gotta say, a couple of years back, I would never have imagined that Colin Osborne was going back to
121.
this sort of level where he could be sitting, throwing over 100 average like he is in this one, 101.40 at the moment. He has really worked extremely hard. He's grafted. He's
40.
gone
John,
to the
you
local
require
opens.
101.
Put in some serious miles.
Put in a lot of miles when he was getting stuff fixed in his game.
Game
And
shot.
Henderson has put in the miles
John Henderson.
more than anybody from the British Isles in Champions Week. Huntley to
Fifth
Portsmouth
leg, it's Colin to
is a
throw
long
first.
old way
Game on.
when you're not flying.
Makes you
95.
wonder as well with Colin Osborne, doesn't it? Someone who's had it all, then lost it, and now he seems to be getting quite a lot of it back. If on the second time round,
100.
you appreciate it so much more, because I think sometimes you don't realise what you've got the first time round.
Yeah, it's very true. That's what Keegan Brown said to me when he lost his card at the end of last year.
140.
He's got it back. John hasn't. But you know from chatting to him that the sole purpose this year is to get it back. He wants to go back to the tour.
140.
No better route back than getting form and confidence and money with us. Do you know how many miles it is from Portsmouth to Huntley?
762.
612 according to my smartphone. That's going via the Glasgow route. That's a long old way. A drive of nearly 10 hours.
45.
In my
Colin, you
headset,
require 126.
before you read that out, I heard a voice in my ear say 612.
Someone's got the same app as me.
86.
That'll do. Osborne is using the darts really well in this game. I know that's the meaning of the game in a literal sense, but what I mean is he's using his turn very well when he
60.
starts.
Colin, you require 40.
Tops for 3-2.
Game
He's
shot.
now within one leg of the top
Colin
spot after day
Osborne.
one. And when you consider the company he's in, that's quite the
Six
feat.
leg, it's John to throw
If
first.
it is so.
Game on.
So, if we go back to the weekly odds and we talk about that because we said Raymond Smith was the
95.
favourite and we all agreed that that was right, are we now, after day one, having to question ourselves about the 7th favourite, which is where Colin Osborne would have ranked before the start
59.
of this, at 9-1.
It's looking pretty generous at this stage, but we know there's a long way to go. But you can't
60.
find your way to the £20,000 prize at the end of the rainbow any more efficient than winning Group A in qualifying, then winning the Saturday night, winning Group A in Champions Week, then winning the
140.
Saturday night. You'll play the least amount of darts for the biggest benefit. There are going to be other people this week who have done a lot more work,
41.
like John. Last week in Group A, he was third. Then he was third in Group B. But at the end of the week, he was the last person standing. That's the main thing that counts.
140.
Yeah, it's not about the amount of games you play, and a lot of the time, the people that play the least, normally the ones that are the most remembered. I cast my mind back to one of the most
86.
iconic wrestlers of all time that virtually everyone's going to know, who actually wrestled very, very little in terms of matches. The Ultimate Warrior.
I knew you were going to say him. Like that Honky Tonk Man match, which lasted about 20 seconds.
$105.
Beautifully done by Osborne. Hendo in trouble here. May have to settle for 4 points for day one. Definitely not out of it.
95. Colin,
He
you
would be 4
require
points behind
57.
Osborne if this goes in. But he does have Osborne first game tomorrow.
$37.
Still in this one.
John, you require 124.
Now he's in that larceny position. Can he pinch it and make Osborne pay on the bull?
99.
Not quite. Because if he took that and
Colin,
the last
you
leg,
require 20.
they'd both finish the day on 6 points. A very different scenario. Last one. And it's not easy.
Game.
But the most
shot,
difficult dart of
and the
that
match.
combination,
Colin
he finds it.
Osborne.
And he does finish top of the table for the day on 8 points. And his leg difference is going to be pretty useful too at +7. He will not be caught because that 97.57 average and another solid display on the doubling, he has been really, really good in that match at the right times. Hendo can say that Monday wasn't its full potential, but it wasn't a disaster either. What will befall Raymond Smith and Justin Smith in the Smith Derby in match 14?
Welcome back to the MODUS Super Series, where Colin Osborne will top the pile in Group A following the opening day of Champions Week, courtesy of a 4-2 success against John Henderson. He was averaging on the ton before that final double went in the end, and final average of 97.5 to get past the Highland, which means he's going to be on 8 points following the opening day's play, and it is very, very tight underneath him in the table. Next up for us, it's a battle of Mr. and Mr. Smith as Raymond takes on Justin, and it's going to be watched by Mr. Nicholson and Mr. Edgar.
Thank you, Mr. Deacon. Looking forward to this one. Should be a clash of styles, really, because Justin is fast, Raymond is a bit more deliberate, and there is an opportunity now for Raymond to finish in second position in the table, maybe. I think the only thing that's on his mind is 6 points after day one. As for Justin, he does not want to be at the foot of the table on 2. It's all about position, Group A. You have to be in striking distance. And with Osborne at 8 points now, he can't afford to be 6 points behind.
It's Raymond to throw first. Game on.
Yeah, if Justin Smith is to win the Smith Derby, he'll actually put 5 players on 4 points.
With McEwen and Haynes to come.
57.
Let's say that Justin does win this game then. Did you foresee Jim McEwen having 6 points at the end of the day?
57.
And possibly knocking on the door of the second position? I thought absolutely not. He lost his first 2 games 4-0. Now his leg difference is not the best. I think second position is probably beyond him. But if you'd have offered 6 points to Jim McEwen after those first 2 matches, he would have said, with bells on. But if you'd have offered 6 points to Raymond Smith at the start of the day, he would have said, no, I'm not happy with that.
Honestly, I think if you'd have offered Jim McEwen 4 points at the start of the day, he wouldn't have turned up. He'd go, I'll have that. I'm not going to go play because I don't feel like I can win 4 points. He saw in his interview, he's just walked into Champions Week, didn't feel great about it.
60.
But maybe today he's going to start giving him some.
What's going on with the throwing hand of Justin Smith? He's wiping his hand a lot Is he struggling with maybe a sweaty palm?
100.
Change of temperature from practice room to here? What do you think it is, speculatively?
Whatever it is, it's
92.
affecting the grip.
Raymond to require
It's affecting the
104.
transfer of the dart to set position. We've seen him drop darts on the floor. We've seen him have a regrip.
30. Justin, you require
Maybe he's just trying to follow the lead of
152.
Getwin Price, who drops more darts than anybody. Doesn't do him any harm.
58.
I think that's an
Raymond
intelligent
requires
switch. The 60 was
74.
closed. But Raymond, he's looking at double 16.
Game shot on
And
the
takes
first
it as well.
leg.
That's a bit more like
Raymond
him.
Smith.
That thing on the back of his shirt, is it a phoenix? It looks like a
Second leg,
phoenix.
it's Justin to throw first. Game on.
If it is a phoenix, you might want to go to the Super Bowl.
60.
where The Super Bowl is in a couple of weeks in Arizona. It will be the Philadelphia Eagles against the Kansas City Chiefs after the AFC and NFC championship games were yesterday.
100.
And that will, such a lovely segue actually, that will be the Kelsey Derby, because the Kelsey family will have one member of their family in either team. Travis Kelsey for the Kansas City
100.
Chiefs is one of the best tight ends ever. That's someone who blocks and receives, depending on the player. Now, which dart player would you want
41.
defending you as a quarterback? As in keeping people at bay. You have to name one.
41.
I'll go with Big Boris.
That is the best answer possible. Someone who was actually guarded, I believe, government employees in Croatia. So
100.
yeah, I'll have my my blindside tackle as Boris Krčma. I'll feel pretty safe if he was there.
100.
Okay. Let's turn this a little bit fun. Who would you pick for your opponent? So,
60.
who would you want defending me if we was against each other? I'm going to give you... I'm going to give
60.
you Vincent van der Meer.
If you don't know who Vincent van der Meer is, by the way, he's a very diminutive Dutchman. He's not the tallest.
90. Justin, you require
Ricardo
140.
Pietreczko of Germany. He's about the same weight as a straw. I think he's pretty quick, but I don't think he'd be very good
40. Raymond, you
Yeah.
require 110.
at rush defending or anything like that. Single 18 for double 16, and he was effective down here in leg one.
78.
Chance for Smith
Justin, you
of the
require
Justin
100.
variety. Is this just in? It's another drop dart. Was he baking yesterday? He might have butterfingers. And he is chuntering away to himself
80.
and not taking the leg.
Raymond, you require 32.
This, for a breaker throw and to continue the misery Justin Smith has been having today. He does not look settled.
Game shot on the second
From the
leg.
very
Raymond Smith.
start. Started off with a 4-2 defeat to Colin Osborne, but he started off average-wise
Third leg, it's Raymond to throw
okay,
first. Game on.
91.15. But he's having a mixed bag at the moment, isn't he? Didn't do very well at Q School. He spoke about that in his interview, and when you take a look at that, it was mightily disappointing for him at Q School. He did better on the Challenge Tour.
131.
Challenge Tour. Sort of mid-80s, 90s for most of his
100.
games. Ended with an 87.33 running average over a lot of matches.
I remember when Andy Jenkins, good friend of ours here at the MODUS Super Series, and someone who will be playing at the
100.
World Seniors Championship next week. I remember when he used to make fun of the Challenge Tour. Consequently,
42.
last year when he won a Challenge Tour event, he wasn't making fun of it anymore. Strange that.
Just had a look at the numbers. 15 matches, 108 legs. He averaged 87.33.
41.
That's pretty good. That's the kind of level that would be very competitive most weeks here. I say most because this is no ordinary week. But that's no ordinary throw.
180.
In the words of General Cecil Hogmanay Melchett from Blackadder Goes Forth,
140.
that's more like it.
I think the only reference I'd have got in that one was,
59.
have you ever felt the wind whoosh through
Raymond, you
your hair?
require
Oh, that
89.
was Rick Mail, wasn't it? That's a good one. Captain Flashheart. What a character. That was almost getting a what a
Justin,
shot from
require
Raymond Smith.
120.
This would be some shot. He might have to go 2 bulls. Another! Oh, it was a great lie as
77.
well. Good
Raymond, you
thinking,
require
good creativity.
25.
Just missed out. 8 for 3-0. Right side of the board has yielded more success
Game shot
than
in
the left,
third
and it does
leg.
again.
Raymond Smith.
Let's think about the possibility for the end of the day for Raymond. It could be 6 points and plus 6.
Fourth leg, it's Justin to throw first.
That's quite healthy.
Game on.
I know I say this every single Monday, but I have to bring it up again. It's Champions Week after all. Raymond Smith will play
60.
Justin Smith again tomorrow in Game 2. He could be on the same points as Osborne before he even throws a dart. And by that time, he might even have a better leg difference.
100.
This is the beauty of flipping the fixtures around, but he knows he's still got stuff to do here. There's definitely something wrong when it comes to gripping the darts today. Whatever it is,
60.
it must be fixed tomorrow or the next day. He can't go on the rest of the week like this.
Yeah, when you play these sort of groups,
53.
I think the trick is not read the table. For that reason you said there, Colin Osborne could be off the top before even having a chance to
80.
affect it. And I think what you're going to do, like when Group C comes round, I've got that rule, 3 lives, is just work out what you'd be happy with. What is your point return that you feel that you need to be on? And then work to that. If you get through without it, bonus. But I think in this group, you could probably say, okay, well, 22 points should do it. Means I can
100.
lose 4 matches. If I lose any more, I'm going to need a bit of fortune.
I think more positive people would say,
81.
in this group, I can afford to lose a game a day. That's going to yield 24 points, which, let's face it, is going to win the group.
50.
That didn't go to plan. Raymond was thinking about leaving a finish after 12. Justin's going to leave a finish.
180.
He's the man for the 180s in this contest. He's got 2 and Raymond hasn't got any. This could be the first match where Raymond doesn't get one.
100.
What a time
Justin,
to hit a
you require
180.
40.
When you're on something like 220, 212, a 180
Game
gets you
shot
straight
on
to
the
a
fourth
double.
leg. Justin
Although
Smith.
Justin Smith might have argued that that was a worse time to hit a 180 because it left him tops, which he absolutely hates.
Fifth leg, it's Raymond to
Good
throw
job,
first.
he likes double 10.
Game on.
We have not had a 4-0 since Game 7 when Johnny Haynes beat John Henderson. But we've actually had 3 bagels today, 2 of them against Jim McEwen. You'll see him against Johnny
100.
Haynes after this. Apologies to some of our fans who may think that the schedule should be over by now, but we did have a bit of a delay in proceedings a little bit earlier on. Thanks to some things out of our control. We apologise for that.
140.
But if you are just joining us for some bonus action, we don't apologise for that. Welcome.
60.
That's a great dart. Still don't know how he does that.
97.
Plotting his way and using the 17s, like you said, Matt, instead of the 19s. And I think
125.
he's got Justin Smith
Raymond
beat
require 164.
mentally. He has been statuesque and poker-faced the whole game. And if he has shown any sort of emotion, it's been where Justin can't see it.
44.
When he was in this situation in the last leg, he needed a big one. He got the biggest one possible.
41.
This time,
Raymond
it just
require
does not seem enough.
120.
It seems like his day could end in disappointment. Just 2 points potentially for Justin Smith today. They came in game number 4 when he beat Johnny Haynes, who maybe
100.
there's something in
Justin, you
this.
require
Is the other player who
154.
plays with a bit of tempo like Justin Smith. Maybe he struggled with the pace of the day.
44. Raymond, you require 20.
The result is not in his hands, though. It's in the hands of the man on the right-hand side of the board.
Game,
Top of the board
and
yields
the match,
another couple of points for Raymond
Smith.
Smith. And he will finish the day on 6 points and a leg difference of +5. Not his best day, but by far and away not his worst either. He will get another nice day's rest after this. An 83 dead average and 40% on the doubles. That will give him a very doable position ahead of Colin Osborne's first game tomorrow, where he has the chance to actually go top of the table. We'll worry about that when it comes tomorrow, but for now, we will settle for game 15 of the day, which is Haynes versus McEwen after the break.
Welcome back to the MODUS Super Series. Raymond Smith has ended his day with a third victory from 5, getting the better of his namesake Justin Smith by 4 legs to 1. An impressive opening day for the Guru, who has a daily average of 89.84 following the completion of the first day's fixtures. And so we head into what is our final game of the day. It sees Johnny Haynes in action up against Jim McEwen, and watching this one for us in the commentary box is Paul Nicholson and Matthew Edgar.
So for the last time today, Henry, we have Johnny Haynes and Jim McEwen. Where can they possibly end up? Well, they're both looking for the same amount of points. But when it comes to leg difference, it is very different. McEwen sits on -6, Haynes on +3. The only way things can change is with a big victory for McEwen. If he was to win 4-0, he'd still be behind Haynes in leg difference, but not on points. And that is the first separator when it comes to our Group A table. Osborne on 8 will chief the group.
First leg, it's Johnny to throw first. Game on.
Raymond Smith is at 6 points already, but this is to break out of the deadlock on 4, which is Haynes, Henderson and McEwen.
140.
Football's the traditional game of two halves, isn't it? But I think Johnny Haynes' performance today might go down in that sort of category in terms of how he played in the early part of the day compared to how he's played towards the back end of the day. Or was that just a bit of a one-off performance? We'll find out. Johnny Haynes can recapture the form of earlier.
140.
If he can end the day on 6.
What do you make of the equipment of Johnny Haynes? Because you look at McEwen, he's got everything that's spanking brand new, glittering gold darts there, and some new flights that he's used today. But these barrels, what do you make of them?
I think they're older than Johnny, aren't they, those ones? I think they originally started off as 36 grams, but he's used them that much that they've just sort of ground down to what they are now.
Oh, about 3.6 grams. The minimum you can have is 12. That's right, isn't it? 12?
I believe it's 12, which always surprises me, actually, that there's actually a minimum
95.
weight. Because
Johnny,
I don't know.
100.
I can see why there'd be a maximum on the weight, but
yeah,
I don't know why
you wouldn't want a 100-gram dart like Danny Smith was feeling last week.
Game shot.
But what you do want are 11
Haynes.
darters. 12 may be the minimum gram on a dart, but you can get a better leg
Second
than
leg, it's
12,
Jim to
and he
throw
just
first.
found it right there.
Game
That's
on.
beautifully done by Johnny. McEwen does not want to bookend his day with 4-0 defeats. He's got himself off the canvas the last couple of games
59.
with some gritty displays. But Haynes knows all too well that finishing your day on a positive can have a really good effect on day 2 or day 3.
82.
Jim McEwen, in fact, holds the record with Colin Osborne for the most points gained in a Group A campaign. 28 from a possible 30.
96.
At the back end of our time in Southampton before we came to this studio, Jim McEwen was in a match with Josh Payne. And if he beat Josh, he would have been the first person to have an
140.
undefeated Group A. 15 wins from 15. He lost the last match. But he still owns the longest win streak. 16 straight matches.
96.
That's what you've got to beat this week.
He was actually really close to pulling that off. He had 2 match darts as well to beat Josh Payne in that one.
99.
So it was in his own hands. He had his own destiny.
It didn't work out for him on the Saturday. He lost. Just goes to show, doesn't it? You can set your records. You can have your streaks. But the most important thing is that you're the last person standing on Saturday night.
56.
Particularly weeks like this. Great first start. Just an absolutely tremendous 140. That's exactly what Jim McEwen did not want to see or to hear from the referee. That's what I like to call a surgical 140. There was no collision with anything. Everything was perfectly pitched.
58.
Nothing lucky
Johnny
about it.
required 40.
Double top for a 13 darter.
Game
there you
shot
go,
on the
14
second
will do.
leg. Johnny Haynes.
And so far, this is 40 points per dart as an average.
Third leg, it's Johnny to throw first. Game on.
And someone who has the record for the best average in this series. 109.99.
45.
Is he going to do it again?
109.99. 999. Jim might be
45.
calling 999 for a bit of help if he carries on getting mugged the way that Johnny Haynes is doing in this one.
I'm just trying to think. The week that he got the 109.99, it was the best. I don't think anybody's got a better one than that in this
99.
series. Now, when Cab Crabtree got a 115.62, that was a venue record. But if I remember rightly, that was in the previous series. And we have had another one with Conor Heenan getting a 115.62. That was on a day where he got a 9-darter. Still the only 9-darter under this roof.
$60.
Cam Crabtree's was in this series. So it'll be Cam Crabtree for the series that would have the top average.
I'm glad we got that straight before I made an even bigger mess of myself before the end of the week.
85.
It won't be the first time I've made an absolute mess of myself over your eating those chocolate brownies all week. I've took the calorie count up a little bit.
You asked for them.
I've asked for them again, actually, as well. I'll have them a
87.
bit more.
Yeah, it's been quite nice, actually, over the weekend when we've had a bit of time away from the commentary box to do a bit of cooking. Feed the crew. Almost a maximum there.
135.
And Johnny will be applying the chalk right now, as you can see. Straight into the pocket. He's a laundromat's nightmare. Black trousers and chalk all over. It's going to be like a 1970s physics teacher.
95. Jim, you require 96.
Oh, that's an awful dart, really. Because now he's got to go 19s. Can't recover. Haynes has got a best finish today of 82.
21.
Leading up to this
Johnny,
match.
you require 115.
But he has got his first ton plus, check out, in this game of 100. He might double down and get another.
75.
Just overpitched that one. Maybe
Jim, you require
overcompensated
75.
for the fact that he missed tops low the last time he was there. He had 96 at the start of the previous visit, and he only gets one shot at a double
35.
with 6 darts in hand.
Johnny,
That's
you require
where
40.
he could possibly lose this leg. And in this company, you should. And he's very lucky he's getting a third visit.
Jim, you require 40.
Yeah, Johnny Haynes was threatening to run away with this one. Jim McEwen just has this habit of sticking in games and then punishing you when you've left him active too long with a big last.
20.
You can't do that.
Johnny,
Not at
you
all.
require 10.
This is for a hold of throw. A somewhat miraculous one.
2.
Maybe this is that scratchy leg that
Jim,
you get
require 20.
once a day. McEwen should win it with that guide, but he's going the other side. So the dart is a hindrance, not a help. Not even sure where that one is. I know where that one is.
Third leg.
Oh,
Jim
beautifully
McEwen.
done. Through the posts. And it's now 2-1. A rather ridiculous break of throw.
Fourth leg, it's Jim to throw first. Game on.
In 24 darts.
I was waiting for this leg so we could go back into the conversation of the chalking of the dart by Johnny Haynes. One of the things that's going to give him is not just the changing of the grip, but
180.
actually, when he looks at his dart, it's going to teach him the reference point, because sometimes you just grip a dart, you just hold it. You're not looking at where it is
60.
in the hand and how it's set. And if he just stands and practices with that chalked up dart, it's going to have more wear in certain places. Where that wear is going to be where he's gripping. So what he's going to do is actually going to show him
60.
where his natural grip point is on that dart. Rather than say, I want to grip on this ring or that ring, you can just throw natural darts, and then the chalk fading will show him his natural throw.
100.
What they tend to do with golf drivers is that on the face of the driver, they will spray it with something, like a residue. And then when the golf ball hits it, it shows you exactly where on the face it actually hit. Same sort of principle.
70.
But what we saw in leg 3 was really interesting for me, because 24 darts for that leg. Johnny Haynes won the first 2 legs in 25.
81.
Slight change in fortune. Still got an average in excess of 89,
57.
but after 2 legs it was 120. Oh, how you can fall off the horse. And what seemed like an unassailable position for Johnny at 2-0 seems a bit more precarious all of a sudden.
85. Jim, you require
Well, I said that
134.
it's been the day of 2 halves for Johnny Haynes. And we have in the game of 2 halves.
If it goes 2-2, there might be another half. Could be the game of 3 halves. Yes, I know there can't be a 3rd
56.
half before anybody tweets us. Just a play on words. Should have gone 25 at the last start, shouldn't he? He went for a 20 or a treble 20.
43.
Cost
Jim,
himself
you
a finish.
require 78.
Never looked settled. He's never looked happy. But he could have something to be happy about if he hits his tops.
38. Johnny, you require 132.
1-3-2 is always fancied by these players, but not anymore. He says, what's that? He's hoping by some miracle that Charlie's going to say it's a 25, but it wasn't.
46. Jim, you require 40.
One of my favourites when someone missed it by a mile ago. Is that in?
That's not.
Game
That
shot
is-
on the 4th leg. Jim McEwen.
Sometimes you just know that it's in the way you've thrown it.
5th leg, it's Johnny to throw first. Game on.
It's halfway through the air, and you're always on your way because you think, "Oh, that's going in." Simple as that.
140.
Maybe now that Johnny's been equalised, he'll start throwing what he did in the first 2 legs again. You see it very often in this format where someone takes a 2-0 lead, they relax a bit too much. Then when they're pegged back,
54.
they snap back into gear. I know there's going to be people
100.
watching this today who had their chance of qualifying for Champions Week, but aren't here. People who were very close last week, like Jared Cole, like Richard North, like Lee Budgeon. But there have been
140.
hundreds of players over the course of Super Series 2. Only one person can be standing, and that person will be a man.
100.
Because we don't have any women in Champions Week.
I'm going to give you a pop quiz then. Which will
Just
be
call
fun.
me Hotshot then.
So, 2 of the finals in this series, when you mentioned people that went close, 2 of them lost 4-3. Can you remember which 2 lost 4-3 and got the closest
Johnny, you
out of those
require
that just missed out?
Well,
161.
Nell Cullerton lost 4-3. Didn't Adam Warner win 4-3?
100.
Adam Warner may have won 4-3, but he's not on my list because he's not here.
So it's of the people who are here.
140.
I'm going to go with Jim McEwen.
Johnny requires 61.
Ian Moss lost 4-3 to Adam Mould.
Ah, there you go. That's what Johnny wants to say to double 18. Ah, there you go. 3-2. Lovely jubbly. Just like that, he's on the cusp. 6 points for the day to be alongside Raymond Smith in the table in the top half. McEwen would have to settle for bottom half alongside Hendo and Justin Smith.
81.
If he's vocalising that and Johnny is hearing it, that's a sign of, I've got you.
100.
Normally a sign of hello. You start getting a little bit happy with things and the confidence levels begin to rise. There's something that Jim McEwen has struggled with the entire day. Despite that, could still end 100. On 4 points. Wouldn't be. Well, he will end on 4 points. It's not he could end on 6. Those chances are decreasing.
140.
Chances decrease when Johnny Haynes starts firing that in. He was averaging 120 after the first couple of legs. Looked like he was going to race away with it, but Jim McEwen's just stuck in there.
$23.
More frustration. Visible for us, visible for Johnny.
83.
This fixture will be your opening fixture tomorrow. We work back through the calendar, through the fixtures.
15.
And there's the frustration coming through. Don't think this game has got too long left.
98.
After 12 darts, McEwen on 282.
$96. Johnny, you require 80.
For the match. Double 12.
68.
And you get to a point in a game where you kind of just want it over. And you sort of feel that Jim McEwen was probably at that point. It's just not going for him in this one. Completely lost the technique, completely lost the throw.
58. Johnny, you require 12.
That's not often used, but has been used quite a bit today. Could be the one to close it off. The double 6. For Johnny Haynes for the match. And it is a 4-2 victory to Johnny Haynes, who ends the day on 6 points. He goes to second in the table, a couple of points behind Colin Osborne, and joins Raymond Smith, who was the bookies' favourite. It's his 4-2 success for Johnny Haynes over Jim McEwen, who got 2 victories today himself, them against Justin Smith and against Raymond Smith, who is joint second in the table. But Johnny Haynes, second place.
Yes, Johnny Haynes, second place in the table following the opening day's play. The Asset has joined me up here on the balcony to assess what we've seen on the opening day of Champions Week, and we can only really start in one place. That's Colin Osborne, 4 wins and 5, an average for the day just underneath 92. Impressive stuff from the Wizard. Yeah,
it really was. And when you consider that he hasn't been here for a period of about 8 weeks, you do question the kind of commitment that certain players will have over the course of a couple of months in leading up to a Champions Week, where they're going to have to wait a long time for it. But obviously what Colin has done over the last couple of months has been very effective. Today he looked energetic, he looked ready for the challenge, and his finishing was excellent. I was really impressed with that.
Is it fair to say, when you look away from Colin Osborne, we saw moments from play, I mean, especially Raymond Smith played really, really well today, but just a couple of moments, I mean, 2-4-3 defeats, just those couple of moments went against him?
Yeah, I think so. The first game of the day, I think, wounded him a little bit. I was impressed with Johnny Haynes, but I think there's more to come from Raymond Smith. Matthew Edgar asked me in the commentary box as to whether I think he's still going to be the man this week. Under no circumstances do I think he's not making Saturday, at least, because there's so much more to give and so much more in the locker.
Well, let's have a look then at the table at the end of the first day's play. As we can see, Osborne, the man, at the top on 8. Haynes and Smith on 6. Haynes jumping up to second on the legs difference and beyond that category from Raymond Smith. And then Henderson and McEwen, how would they look at their days?
I don't think Henderson's going to be too disappointed with 4 points, but I think the weakest links today were definitely McEwen and Justin Smith. But if you look at the leg difference, they tell the story. They've both got -8, and they're 7 legs behind Henderson, who's on 4 points and -1. So you get the feeling that John's lost some minor battles, but McEwen and Justin Smith have lost some major battles. So they've got a lot to do in their first game tomorrow.
What did you make of Justin Smith? Because you actually look at the daily average, it wasn't too bad, but there was just moments where it looked as if himself, he just kind of got rattled and maybe got in his own head more than anything else.
Something was happening on the hockey. I don't know what it was. I'm not sure if it was a mental thing. I think it was a comfort thing. Whether it was something to do with his grip on the dart or whether it was something to do with his hands. He was dropping a lot more darts than usual today. So what he's got to do is learn from that. If he expects to turn up and things to just be better tomorrow, it doesn't work that way. You've got to make sure that whatever was wrong today is fixed.
Of course, Colin Osborne will be the happiest in terms of the league table on 8 points, but take him aside, who do you think would be the happiest with their day's work?
I think Johnny's going to be pretty happy with it. I think he knows that he's in pretty good nick and that this is a really tough group to be in. So top half at this point, more than fine. He doesn't spend mental bandwidth on what could have been and what could possibly be tomorrow. He'll just plod on with his day, walk around town, get some fresh air, and he'll be back to do the same tomorrow, come what may.
We call tomorrow moving day. Is tomorrow possibly a moving day for Raymond Smith? He was the man who's tipped as the favourite at the start of the week, played well today. Are we expecting possibly a bit more of a kick from the level he's shown today?
Maybe. I think if someone can do what Lee Budgeon did last Tuesday by getting 5 wins from 5, they will make a huge statement to the group. It's about getting in front at the right moment and then being able to defend that lead by winning. And that's something that I can see either Osborne or Raymond Smith doing.
It's not been a bad start to Champions Week, has it?
Yeah, it's pretty good, actually. I think we haven't seen the heights with averages or maybe massive finishes, but the genuine quality from start to finish and the consistency was definitely there.
Well, we're going to do it all again tomorrow morning, so join us from 9:30 a.m. here on Sporty Stuff TV and the MODUS Super Series YouTube channel as we get day 2 of Champions Week of Super Series 2 underway. But on day 1, Wizard had the winning spell.